Hey everyone, this is alexusadays, and today we start a new course, JavaScript for Testers. In this course, we're going to talk about why testers should learn JavaScript, how to install Node and VS Code. We'll understand variables, JavaScript data types, comparison operators, logical operators, conditional statements. We'll talk about JavaScript loops, JavaScript arrays, JavaScript objects, JavaScript and JSON, JavaScript functions, and we'll also try to use one of the test frameworks with JavaScript to prepare ourselves for automation. Why JavaScript? JavaScript is one of the most popular programming languages in the world. It is used in browsers, frameworks like React and Vue, server-side scripting with Node.js, API creation, game dev, database management. According to Statista.com, JavaScript is the most used programming language among developers in the world worldwide as of 2023. And you have the link to the survey right here. Why testers should use JavaScript? So frameworks such as Puppeteer, Cypress, and Playwright are influential JavaScript-based web automation frameworks that support UI testing and API validation. Their ease of use and setup, combined with powerful capabilities such as cross-browser testing and fast execution, make them preferable for modern developers focused on efficiency and comprehensive testing coverage. You can see that just those three frameworks have millions of downloads daily. For example, Cypress is getting about 5 million downloads daily. Playwright is getting 4 million downloads daily. Puppeteer getting 4.5 million downloads daily. So by learning JavaScript, we'll be able to start getting into automation. So in this video, we will do this. We will install Node and verify the versions of the Node install. There's a link for the download. We'll install development environment, Visual Studio Code. Here's the link. We will initialize npm project with npm init-y command. This command will create package JSON file that is fundamental for managing project dependencies. And then we will write our first JavaScript program, Hello World. So let's get into it. Let's start with Node.js installation. So grab LTS, recommended for most user, your version of installer for Windows or Mac. Which one do you use? Mine is Windows 64-bit version, so it should auto-recommend based on your system. Okay, here we go. It is downloaded. Now go to the download folder, open it up, and start Node.js installation process. Accept license. Default folder is fine. Next. Add to path. Everything selected. Good. Next. I will also say that automatically install necessary tools. Next. And install. There's some pop-ups asking to approve the installation process, so I hit yes. Okay, Node.js has been successfully installed. Great. And then there is some installation happening, additional tools. So you just press any key to continue and it will install it. Might need to press multiple times for each instance of installation. And again, some permissions were asked. So the installation process is happening right now. Okay. After the Node installation done, we will go and install Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code. Go to the download. Again, my system is right here, Windows, so select your system and download it. Okay, download in progress. Open it up and let's install it. Accept license agreement. Sure, default folder looks okay. Create desktop icon. Okay, good, and install. Okay, so after the installation of Visual Studio Code, we want to create a folder where we're going to work. So I'm going to call this Learn.js for testers, something like that. Now let's go ahead and launch Visual Studio Code so you can just search for it. Okay, so it comes up. Let's open the folder that we just created. Learn JS for Testers, selected, and here we are. At the very bottom, you see a triangle with exclamation mark. Press on that, and you'll have a terminal open. Okay. So while it loads, for the terminal open, you see it's the path to the actual folder. So we're inside the folder here. So we can check a couple of things. So first, let's check the node version. See if the node is installed. Great, the node is there. Let's also check npm version that installs with the node. And npm is right there. Okay, perfect. So in JavaScript, a lot of code is already written by other people. You don't have to write everything from scratch, right? A lot of things are being managed as npm packages. So you want to initialize npm in the folder where you're at to have the npm project going, so you can actually download that additional code if you need some other functionality. You don't have to write it from scratch. There will be a node module to handle it. So in order to initiate node, you can do npm package, and you do an npm init-y. So this will just start npm without and create a package JSON for you where everything is managed, the config, without the need to do the configuration. So just run it. If you will do it without -y, it will ask you different configuration details like the name of the project, description, and so on and so on. If you do it with -y, it just skips everything and goes directly to package, creating package JSON, installing everything. Okay, so this is our package JSON. That's where everything is going to be managed. Great. Now let's clear the console, type clear, and let's create our first file. So hit this little new file class. Let's call it hello_world.js. Okay, and let's type our first program. So it's going to be a console output. So we type console.log, and then inside the console, in quotes, we say hello world, exclamation mark. Now, since I'm already in this folder, in this path, I'm inside Learn JS for Testers here in the terminal. I can just do node and then hello. So I start typing hello, H, I put H and then press tab on my keyboard. It's going to autocomplete for me. So hello world.js. And if I run it, now I see this output, the text output that we put in inside console on the screen. Interesting enough, so JavaScript runs in many places. So for example, like your browser, if you right click it, go inspect, you get into the DevTools. Here's console as well. So you go to that console, and here, if you'll type console log, and you type inside the same thing, hello world, for example, we can type any text, but let's type just hello world, and run it. You see console out actually prints it out back for you. So yeah, JavaScript in many places, it's very useful for tester. It's easy to start with, and as we progress through the course, it will get you ready into going into an actual automation with Cypress or Playwright that we will have another course on. One more thing that I wanted to add, even though console log is a very simple command, you will be using it a lot. It's good for debugging. You will be passing along variables, some system logs into it, and you can pass along inside console log, and it will show what's actually happening with the system. So it will be a very good way to find errors, issues when you create automation, if something is not showing, not working properly, and so on. So yeah, let's do this. Go into the file and make sure you have autosave checked mark here, so you don't have to save every time you code something. Just press file and then hit autosave. Make sure there's a check mark there. And now we're gonna do a couple more strings. So even though we kind of get ahead of ourselves here, let's create a variable, let and user underscore name. So a variable is essentially like a box, a container where you can store stuff. Within this variable username, I'm going to store my username. So alexusadays. You can type your name in here within the single quotes or double quotes, doesn't matter, as long as you open and close with the same quotes, you should be good. Now we have this value, alexusadays, stored inside this variable, username. Let's type it out now. So console log, and here in quotes we will say hello space, and then we can say here after the quotes are closed plus, and then the variable. Okay, so this is called string concatenation. So concatenation. Okay, now if I run node.helloworld.js, so I'll run the file, I can see hello Alex usadays. So this command, this console log, is actually printing out hello plus our variable, the value stored inside of it, Alex usadays. There is another newer method to do print out like that. It's called interpolation. So interpolation. For that, you can do console log, and now instead of double quotes or single quotes, we want to put in backticks. So backtick is a key before number 1 on your keyboard, right? So right here, backticks like that, and we can say hello. And here, we don't need to do plus, we don't need to close anything, so everything inside the backticks, we put $sign. So shift 4 for a $sign, and then here we put curly braces, just like that. Now within curly braces, we provide the name of the variable. So I double click on it, press Ctrl C to copy, go within the curly braces, and then press Ctrl V to paste. And let's add some exclamation marks so we know it's different. Okay, so this is concatenation, this is the interpolation, and we're printing out hello and our username. Let's run it one more time. So node h to and then node h and then press tab. It will autocomplete the file name here, and then press enter. And here we go. So hello world, this is coming from console output on line 1. Then hello Alex usadays, this is coming from console output on line 6. And then hello Alex usadays with 3 exclamation marks, this is coming from output on the line 9. All right, perfect. So I think we're ready to move along. This was Alex usadays, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is Alex usadays. So today we're continuing with JavaScript for testers, and we need to understand variables. Now this is module 2, and from here then we will move into JavaScript data types. So in order to understand variables, we will also have to talk about scope and get some general understanding of the scope, even though it is a more complex concept, right? So in JavaScript, you have 3 types of variables available: var, let, and const. We need to understand scope and how it works with variables. So scope is visibility and accessibility of variables, functions, and objects at various parts of your code. There's global scope, so variables can be accessed from anywhere in your JavaScript code when they're in global scope. So if you declare variables at the top of your JavaScript file, they will be in the global scope. Then there is function scope, and variables are created when the function starts and deleted when the function is completed. Function scope is for var variables. Then there's block scope, so variables declared inside curly brackets block and can be accessed from outside of the block. Block scope was introduced in ES6, so an updated version of JavaScript that everyone uses now, with the addition of let and const variables. So let and const are newer variables. Var is an older one. Variable is like a container that can hold data for you to access when it is needed. and we got var. So var is the first variable historically available in JavaScript, but now it's generally recommended to avoid. Then there is let. You should use let when you need to reassign the variable, or when the variable is only needed within a block. And then there's const. So you should use const for variables that should not change their value after being assigned. So let's talk a little bit more about it on some examples. Okay, so we're back into our Visual Studio Code, and we have the file hello world. So let's rename this file, and before it add 1. And now let's go ahead and create new file, hit on plus. Let's name it 2 dot, and let's give it JavaScript underscore variables dot JS. Okay, so this is our new file that we will be working in. So let me actually zoom in a little bit. All right, here we are. Now, the very first variable that was available is var. So you can say var and then variable name. So let's name it this underscore is var. And let's give it some value. I'm var. Okay, so this is the first available variable type that is generally now recommended to avoid. We can print the value that we stored in var by going console.log, and then just say this is var. So if I will run this command, node to tab, and it will autocomplete for me. Here's I'm var. So this is var, and var can be reassigned. So I can say this is var is equal to bananas, right? So here I declared var, initialized and declare I am var, but here I am actually reassigning the value. So now instead of I am var within the container, the box, the bananas are stored. So if I'll run it again, you can see how it was updated. Okay, so the next one, and I'm going to comment out this console log output. The next one is let. So let is now preferred variable when you use let instead of var. You can also access it, but you can also update it. So anytime you're creating a variable that later on needs to be somehow updated, you want to use let. So let's name it this underscore is let. So and equals to I'm let. So this is another variable, right? And let's print it out. So console.log, this is let. This is let. Okay, let's run the file. And you can see I'm let is being printed out. So this value that was stored within the let is printed out. Okay. So let can be reassigned. So later in the code, you assign, let's say in the start, you assigned something to this let variable, and then later in the code, you need to update it and assign something new. You can do this. So I can say this is let is now equal to, and let's say we will type it is updated now. Okay, so the new value will be stored in this is let variable. So let's run it one more time. And you can see it is updated now. Okay, perfect. And the last one is const. So const is declared an assigned value once, right? You have to provide value when you create const. So we'll say this underscore is const, right? You can have a different variable name if you want. And I'm const, right? So let's print it out as well. So console.log, this is const. So save it, and let's run it one more time. I'm const, right? So, but let me try and reassign it. So I will say this is const, and now it's equal to, and I will name it can't reassign me. I will try to give it value can't reassign me. Okay, so I'm trying to reassign it over here, so I'm providing a new value, and I'm going to try to print it out. Let's see what happens if I'll do that. Run it, and we get an error. So you see this is const equal can't reassign me, and the error says assignment to constant variable. So it's impossible, right? You have to have a value for const, and this value stays, right? So that's the main difference. So you should avoid var in general. I'll give you some examples now on the scope because it's an older variable type. You should be using let when you declare variables, and then you know you will be updating the values, reassigning values. And const, if it's not changing, you just declare it, assign a variable, and that's it, and you don't touch it, right? Okay. So let's clear out the console. Now let's talk about scope a little bit. So I created here a folder with some examples for scope. Again, if it's too complicated for you, don't overthink about it. Just have some general understanding about scope, right? As we go, as we go forward, move forward, it's going to become clear, but you have to know that it does exist. So here is an example of global scope. So any variable declared outside of a function or a block, so using var, let, or const, will be in the global scope. So all of those three variables are declared at the very top of the file, ignoring the comment section. They're not inside of a function, they're just right there. So they all are in global scope. And you can access those variables from the function, or can access outside of the function because they are in the global scope. You can essentially access them from anywhere. So if I will go and let me move into the folder scopes, so cd scopes. Now I'm inside scopes, and here let me do node.1 and tab to get the whole file name, so global scope.js. I run it, and we can see that I'm printing out a global scope variable. I'm also global scope variable, and me too. I can also say, instead of calling all those three from global scope at the bottom, I can say show global and just call the function. So the function was declared here, the values were inside of it, called, and I can just call the function itself and run it one more time. Same thing happens. So I deleted all the console output that was here. I just called the function right here, and still I was able to access all of that text by calling the function that does the console log command. Okay, so this is global scope. Next one is function scope. So function scope is specific to var variables, again, that you should not use. So variables declared with var inside a function. So function scope is anything from the function start, so from here, till the function ends. So this is the whole thing here is a function scope. Okay. So if I will run the second file, function scope, you can see first we're running accessible within this function. So variable function scope is declared accessible within this function. So it's inside the function, and here it is running and showing accessible within the function. So and then the second one is within if block, still function scope. So it's still within the function scope. It is also accessible within the whole function. So from here to here, all of the variables that were declared using var are accessible. And you can see it also prints out also accessible within the whole function, not just the block. Okay, so this is var, right? And then if I will try, and you can see there's some code commented out, if I will try to call them over here directly. So I'm not calling the function anymore. Let me just comment it out. And we will get to more explanation about the functions. We're just kind of more talking about the scope right now. So I'm trying to call the function scoped var, so this one. And I'm trying to call still function scope this one outside out of the function, right? I'm not trying to print it out in the function anymore. I commented out calling the function on the line 14, right? Right now I'm on line 17 and line 20. I'm trying to get access to those variables that were declared within the function. But there are in the function scope, and I'm here trying to get them from the global scope. So if I'll try and run it now, you'll see I'm getting an error. Function scope is not defined. So it doesn't have access directly here from the global scope, getting to the values inside the function, right? That is the function scope. So I'm going to comment this out. And let's call function again. Clear the console, so type clear, and again, node, function scope, JS, run it. Now we're still getting them. So they're being called from the function by here calling this function. Now let's go to the last one. Block scope is a variable declared with let or const inside a block. So the code is surrounded by the curly brackets. So not from the function start to the function end, but in a block. So this is one block from this curly bracelet to this curly bracelet, right? And this is another block also, but they're different blocks. So how that can be demonstrated? So you can see this is a function scoped var, and this is a block scope var. This output is going to be only available within this block. So let me run it. So number 3, block scope. If I execute it, when I call the function, you can see that it called this console log and it called this console log. So line 9 console log was called, and we got only accessible within the block output. And then line 12 console log was called, and we got accessible within the function call. All right. So if I'll comment out the console log on line 9, and let's call the function one more time. Now I have only one accessible within this function running right here. Let me try and access to the block scope variable outside of the block. So here is the block. Let is being declared within this block. And now on line 13, I'm trying to call it and show the text inside the variable when I'm calling the function, right? So let me try and do that. And I get an error. It says block scoped variable is not defined outside of the block. So I'm trying to get access inside the block, even though it was in the same function, but it's in a different block. And let variables are block scoped. It can't get access to it, right? From this curly braces to this curly braces, this is the block. Trying to get inside the block, and I can't get the variable out. So that is the difference. If I had var here, the var again accessible through the whole function from the start to the end. If I'll rerun it with changing this let to a var, you can see now it's being printed out on line 13. Okay, so again, this is a little bit more complex for starts where we get into variables. So your goal here right now is just to understand that there are 3 variable types in JavaScript. So var, let, and const, right? And that you should be using let when you declare variables and you want to reassign them later. And you should be using const if you assign something and you don't reassign it later at any point. And generally, you should be avoiding var, and you should know there are different levels of scope. There's global, that is declared everywhere outside of a function. Then there is a function scope, so from the start to the end of the function, that is var specific. And then there's a block scope that is within the blocks within the function, so from opening and closing curly braces, and that is specific to const and let variables, and that's the ones you should be using in general throughout your coding. Okay, so hopefully this is clear enough to get some general understanding on scopes, and hopefully you got your introduction with variables. Like, I want you to type this out, the variables itself. I don't really want you to go into typing out anything in the scopes, but just get familiar with the variables themselves. Okay, so this is it. See you in the next video. This was alexusadays, and bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays, and today we're going to talk about JavaScript data types. So this is module 3. After covering the JavaScript data types, we'll go into comparison operators. So when starting with JavaScript, focus on fundamental data types, also called primitive data types. JavaScript primitive data types are number. So this is used for any numerical value, whether it's an integer like 1, 2, 3, or decimal like 3.14. You use numbers for doing math or anything that involves counting or calculating. String is the next data type. This type is used for text. You can write a string by putting characters between quotes. For example, in double quotes, hello, or in single quotes, world. They are strings. Next one is a Boolean data type. This type has only two possible values. It's either true or false. It's like a yes or no answer, and in testing can be used to assert conditions, whether you get expected results or not. The next one is undefined. This is automatically assigned to variables that have been declared but not yet given a value, and I will show you an example of that. If you create a variable and don't set it to anything, its type is undefined. And the last one is null. This is a special value that represents no value or nothing. It's a bit like undefined, but it is used to intentionally indicate the absence of any value. Okay, so let's get into code. We're in our project. Let's go ahead and create new file. So new, let's give it 3.js underscore data underscore types.js. Okay, so first let's talk about number, right? So variable number data type, anything that you need to count, if you need to show how much, doesn't matter if it's a whole number or it's a decimal, you can use that data type. So if you say let, so this, let's do underscore, this is a number, and then equals to 25. So this variable is a number. I can also say let this is a float, for example, or a decimal, doesn't matter, and let's say 314, right? Both of them are numbers. The next one is string. So string is text. It doesn't matter if a name or it's a name, let's say text and number, still a string. For example, let name as equal, and then you can type your name here, Alex, right? Or I can say let postal code, and let's say 739, whatever number for a postal code, 980234. You see, even though I typed numbers here, but because it's within the quotes, it is still a string. So it is still text. So it's just I represent numbers for a human to think that it is numbers, but actually the data type for the value being stored is a string. So it's a text, right? Now let's talk about Boolean. So Boolean can be true or false. So let I am learning JavaScript and equals true, right? Okay, or another one, let I had enough sleep today, right? And we'll say this is false, right? So it's either one or the other. It is very good for testing if you're verifying some conditions, if you're going to expect in value to come back. Does the value that come back matches what you were expecting? Is it true or false? Right. So a lot of your tests are going to be based around that. So if I don't give it any value, this variable here is undefined. So I declared it. So this variable is declared. It's just waiting for some value to be added to it, right? But file console log undefined variable, because there was no assignment, there's no equal, there's no value provided. Right now it is undefined. So let's run this file. Let's do node 3 tab, and it shows undefined. So you can have values let and var. So let's say var a, I'll just give it name a, right? And you don't have to have a semicolon at the end. You used to have to, but now you don't, right? So let's say I'm gonna type console.log a as well. So I'm printing those out. Both of them are undefined. But for example, for constant, right? When you create a constant variable, you have to declare it and then initialize it. Because if you will have a constant that is not defined, it will error out, because you can't reassign a constant variable, right? You remember that from the previous lesson. So if I'll try to actually go and print it out, right? Let's run it. I'm going to have an error. So whenever you declare in a const value, you're not only declaring it, you should initialize it. How do you initialize a value? A variable? Well, you have to assign it some value, right? Now I am initialized, right? And let's run it again. Okay, and now we have it initialized. And the last one is null. So null, if you want to store something that has no value and then later on update it, for example. So let this is null equals, and we're going to type in here null. So JavaScript knows the data type that is stored here is null. And let's print it out. Console.log. This is null, right? I'm going to comment all this. So to comment every line highlighted, you can press Control and the backslash like this, and it will just comment all the lines. And print it out. Okay, and we got null. All right. So these are basic data types that you need to know in JavaScript, and you will be working with all of them, almost all of them, when you will be creating test cases or verifying things. You will be verifying text values, you will be verifying certain numbers, you can verify type of the value that comes back. Is it a number or is it a text? You will be verifying booleans, if something true or false. Maybe just undefined, you might be doing some verification with undefined, expecting that there would be no value coming back, or even if you want to make sure that something has no value and would specifically assign no value, you might be verifying this data type as well. Okay, and if you ever want to check the type of the value that is stored in a variable, you can just write a little function. So it's built in JavaScript. It's called typeof. So you can say console.log, and here you can say type of, and then just provide the variable. So let's do, this is a number, right? What else? So let's actually type them all out. So first one is this number, the second string. Let's grab a string. So it doesn't like name, so let's do first name. Yeah, I think it might be a reserved, so let's not type in name as a variable name. So let's do first underscore name. I am learning JS. Let's also do the type of I'm learning JS. Let's do the type of undefined variable here, and the last one, this is null. So we will print out to the console type of all of those values. And let's run it again. And here we have number, string, boolean, undefined, and undefined. Okay, so we have null undefined because I actually commented out. So let's bring this back up. So the line 23, I removed the comment. This variable now exists again. So let's clear it out. So you see, if something doesn't exist and you try to get the type of value of it, if it was never declared, you'll get undefined back as well. Okay, here we go. And interestingly enough, a null is actually an object, right? Well, it outputs an object by design of the JavaScript, so don't worry about it. All right, that's it. We're done for today. Let's move to the next lesson. This was alexusadays. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays. So we're continuing with JavaScript for testers, and today we're going to talk about comparison operators. Now we are at module 4, so after we're done with comparison operators, we're going to move to logical operators. So in JavaScript, comparison operators are used to compare values in a Boolean fashion, meaning that the comparison evaluates to either true or false. First one is equality, so two equal signs. Checks if the values of two results are the same. Even they are different types, like a number and a string, if needed, it will convert one type to another to make the comparison. So for example, 5 equals 5 in quotes evaluates to true because JavaScript converts the string 5 to a number before comparison. Next one is strict equality, so 3 equals. Checks if the values of two operands are equal and of the same type. Example, 5 equals 5 in quotations evaluates to false because the types are different. One is a number and the other one is a string. Inequality, exclamation mark equal. Checks whether two values are not equal and returns true if they're not equal. Example, 5 exclamation mark equal 5 in quotations evaluates to false. JavaScript will convert the string to a number and then perform the comparison. Since the two values are equal after type conversion, it will evaluate to false. So if it would say 5 is not equal to 6, for example, then it would return true. But because 5 is equal to 5 after the type conversion, it says false. Strict inequality checks if the values of two operands are not equal or not of the same type. So for example, 5 exclamation mark equal quotation 5 evaluates to true. 5 as a number is not strictly equal to 5 as a string. The next one is greater than. Checks if the value of the left operand is greater than the value of the right operand. For example, 5 is greater than 3. That will evaluate to true. Less than. Checks if the value of the left operand is less than the value of the right operand. For example, 3 will be less than 5, and that will evaluate to true. The next one is greater than or equal to. It checks if the value of the left operand is greater than or equal to the value of the right operand. So for example, 5 greater or equal to 5 will evaluate to true. And the last one, less than or equal to, checks if the value of the left operand is less than or equal to the value of the right operand. For example, 5 less or equal to 5 evaluates to true. Automation QA engineers often use comparison operators as part of the verification process to make sure that the values received are equal, greater, or less to what is expected. So let's get some examples into the code. Okay, so we're in Visual Studio Code. Let's create new file. So let's create comparison operators.js. All right, great. So let's go with our examples. First, we're going to see equality. So equal, not a strict one, equal, regular one. So let's store the outcome in the variable and then print out the variable so we can see what it resulted to. So for example, and let's call it is_equal, and then say, and inside of that variable, we're going to store 5 is equal to a string 5. So number 5 is equal to a string 5. And let's type console.log is equal. All right, let's see what we get as a result. Clear the console. So we're going to say nod 4 and then press tab for it to type out the whole file name, run it. And okay, so is 5 equal to 5? Yes, it is, because it is not a strict comparison. Okay, now let's do strict equal. And by the way, you probably want to pause the video as you go and type it out yourself. So this way we're not only watching and learning, but it's very important that you actually practice and you type things out so you can repeat after me, because it's going to help you to remember by a lot. All right, so next one, and let's call it is_strictly equal. Say, and then we set an equal here to assign this variable the values, the outcome of the comparison. So 5 equals to 5 in quotation. So is 5 type of a number is equal to 5 text if we do strictly comparison. So let's print it out. Console.log is strictly equal. I'm going to comment this out so it doesn't show up in our console response. So clear it out and run it. False. Now you can see that strict comparison actually returns false here. All right, let's do the next one. So inequality or not equal. All right, so let is not equal as a variable name, and then let's assign it value. So 5 exclamation mark equals, which means not equal sign, right, to 8. All right, same thing, let's print it out. So I'm going to comment out the previous console.log is not equal. All right, let's clear the console and run it. And that's true. 5 is not equal to 8. Okay, great. Let's see the next one. Let's see strict inequality. So strict not equal. So let strict underscore not equal, and we're going to assign it. So let's say 5 exclamation mark equal to 5 type string. All right, let's see what console output do we get. Console logged strict not equal. Again, I'm commenting out the previous one so it doesn't show. Clear out the console and let's run it. So it's true. So 5 type of number strictly is not equal to 5 type of string. Great. Okay, so the next one is greater than. So let's see if greater underscore than variable name. So let's see if 3 is greater than 5. And console.log greater than. And you probably know already the output for that one. So run it. False. So 3 is not greater than 5. All right. Let's see less than. less than. So let less underscore than. And let's do the same thing. So 3 less than 5. And again, we want to have only one output in the console. So we're going to comment this out. So console.log less than. Let's clear it and run it. Yep, that's true. 3 is less than 5. All right, the next one is greater than or equal. Greater than or equal. So in this case, let's let greater than or underscore equal. And then over here, we'll see, let's see if 5 is greater than or equal than 3. Or actually, let's do 5. So it's kind of obvious that it is. If it's equal, it will show as equal. Right? Run it. Yep, it is true. So 5 is actually equal to 5. So because we're comparing greater than and equal, it is returned true. If we would have here, let's say 7, and run again, we will get false, right? If we had like 3, which is still less than 5, then we would have true. All right, perfect. And the last one is less than or equal. So less than or equal. So let less than or equal. So if it takes time for you to type things out, just pause the video, take your time typing things out. That's completely fine. As more you type, as more you practice, the faster you're going to get. All right, so here is 5 is less or equal to, let's say 10 first, right? So console.log less than or equal. All right, let's run it. And that's true. 5 is less than 10. What about 10? Run it one more time. Still true, but how about 11? Is 11 less or equal to 10? Run it. False. Okay, so that's it about the comparison operators. Again, you will be needing those a lot once you start comparing values. You might be receiving some amounts. Let's say you're verifying test cases where a certain price comes back and you expect, so you have an operation, a function that is running something, right, in the system, and then you get a price of an item, let's say, as an outcome of that. Maybe you're calculating tax with the price. Right, so you compare to the price that you're expecting, and if it results to true, if the price that you received is equal to the price that you got, well, great, test pass. If it results to false, then test fails. All right, so this is it for comparison operators. I'll see you in the next video. This was alexusadays. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays. We're continuing JavaScript for testers, and today we're doing logical operators. So we are in module 5, and next we're going to go into conditional statements. Okay, so logical operators. In JavaScript, logical operators help make decisions based on variables or values. They're often used in situations where you need to check conditions. The main logical operators are AND. So 2 ampersands is the logical AND operator. It is used to check whether 2 conditions are both true at the same time. If both conditions are true, the result is true. Otherwise, it is false. For example, you need both a pencil and paper to draw. If you have both items, you can draw. Thus, it is true. If you don't have one of the item or you don't have 2 of the item, every time for that it will be false. Next one is OR. So 2 pipes is the logical OR operator. It is used to check if at least one of 2 conditions is true. If either condition is true, the result is true. If both are false, the result is false. For example, you can go and play if it is Saturday or if it is Sunday. If today is either one, you can play. If it's any other day of the week, so let's say Friday and Thursday, you can't. But if it's say Friday and Saturday, so one of them is true, you can. Okay. The last one is not. Exclamation mark is the logical not operator. It is used to reverse the Boolean value of a condition. If the condition is true, the logical not operator will make it false, and vice versa. Example, you can stay up late if you are not sleepy. If you are sleepy, you need to go to bed. All right, so let's go ahead and put those examples in code. Okay, so let's code out our logical operators. I'm going to start with creating a new file, 5.logical_operators.js. Okay, so we're going to start with and operator first. So we use 2 ampersands for that, so shift 7. And let's declare some variables that will hold true or false values. So let's start with let has underscore pencil and make it true. So this value will store true for pencil. And let's start with let's has underscore paper as true. Okay, so in order to demonstrate AND operator, we're going to use if. We're going to talk about if more in upcoming video, but you want to understand that if is essentially a control flow statement, and it's used to decide whether a block of code should be executed or not. So we will start with our if condition. So start typing if, and then within the parentheses, you want to provide logic where you decide if it's going to move into the code execution or not. So here we will say has pencil, and then we're going to use our logical operator, and has paper. And after our condition, we want to open curly braces, and within the curly braces we'll have the logic that is being executed. So we'll say console.log, I have paper and pencil, so I can draw. Now, I recommend that you pause the video and you type things out as well, because it's very important to practice. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to learn, right? So if we're going to go ahead and execute this, so we'll say node 5 and press tab for the full file name and execute it. And we see that our text is being printed out in the terminal. So I have paper and pencil, so I can draw, because both of the conditions are true. So for the AND operator to work, both of the conditions have to be true. If they're true, this whole thing is equal to true, and that's why it goes further and executes this console command within the curly braces. Now, if I will say that I don't have a paper, for example, so that's going to be false, and run it, we see nothing comes back. Okay, so nothing is being executed. Now let's go and see OR operator. So I'm going to highlight the whole section. I'm going to press Control// to comment it all. Now let type OR operator. So OR operator, and this is 2 pipes, right? So shift backslash, and you'll get your pipe, right? Okay, we're gonna say let is underscore Saturday equals to true, and then let's say let is underscore Sunday is equal to true. And we will do an if statement again. So if is Saturday or is Sunday, and we're gonna print out console.log. We can go outside and play, something like that, because it's a weekend, right? It's a day off. Instead of or, so we put in pipe, 2 pipes here. And let's see if that runs. Okay, so we can go outside and play. So if both are true or one of them is true, this will execute. Let's say if both of them, so let's say one is false here, right? still executes, because one being true is enough for OR operator to actually move forward and execute the logic. But let's say we'll say both are false and try to run it, and we see nothing comes back. Okay, so for OR, it's enough for just one of the conditions to be true. For AND, you have to have both to be true. Okay, let's clear the console. So the next one, we're gonna go and do not operator, and that's an exclamation mark. So for example, let's say let is sleepy. So you want to sleep, and that is false. You don't want to sleep. And then we're going to add logic if is sleepy, right? Let's say console.log. I want to sleep. Okay. So if we will execute this, you see it's not printing out because is sleepy is false. Now we're going to add not operator. So this false is going to be canceled out and will become true if we will put exclamation mark here. So now you can read it at if not is sleepy. So essentially it turns this false into true. And now if I run this code, it actually prints it out. Okay, now let's do something completely crazy, but let's kind of put together all three of them in one if condition, right? I'm gonna maybe just comment out this part. I'm gonna comment out this part, and I'm gonna comment out this part. So I'm just gonna leave out the variables available for us so we can use them. So let's have a long if block that checks multiple conditions here. So let's say if, and here we'll have one condition being checked. So I have a pencil, and I have paper, and then let's say and one more time, and then here we will put in parentheses another condition. It is Saturday, so is Saturday, or is Sunday, right? And let's put another check over here, and I am not sleepy, right? So this defaults to true because both of those are true, and we use an and, so this has become true. It's Saturday or Sunday, even though one is false, Sunday is false, Saturday is still true, so this also defaults to true. And the last one, even though sleepy here is false, is sleepy was not, it also becomes true, so false turns into true. So this true, and this true, and this true. All of three are true, and as a result, we have a total amount of true within the parentheses for this if. Now, in the curly braces, let's say something like console.log. I have paper and pen. It is weekend, and I am not sleepy, so I can draw all day, something like that. All right, so let's go ahead and execute this, and you can see it is working. It's all defaulted for true. Now, because we have multiple ands here, so this has to be true, this has to be true, this has to be true. If I, let's say, change one of the conditions and then it becomes false, so for example, I am actually sleepy, right? So this true, and this true, and this false, we are still using and. So one false still becomes, the whole block here becomes false. So I try to execute it now, nothing comes back. Same thing here. So let's say it's not Saturday and it's not Sunday. So both are false. And so this becomes false, even though this is true and this is true. Totality of all those conditions here is false. Now I run it again. and you can see nothing is executed. Let's update to one of them to be true, clear out the console. So now we have Saturday is true, run it again, and it prints out. And now let's say I don't have a pencil. So pencil becomes false. I don't have nothing to draw with. Again, I try to run it one more time, and nothing is executed. All right. So hopefully this gives you some practice and some idea of the logical operators and how they work. Now, as a QA engineer, you will be using logical operators a lot in your testing. When you will be comparing values, you will be expecting like a certain outcome. If something have to be true or false, you will be verifying that. So those operators are quite useful in your logic when you will be testing. So get familiar with them, type them out, practice. This is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. This was alexusadays. Leave a like and subscribe if you like the video, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays, and we're continuing with JavaScript for testers. And today we're going to talk about conditional statements. We are in module 6, so after conditional statements, we're going to move into module 7, JavaScript loops. Okay, so conditional statements. Conditional statements in JavaScript are used to perform different actions based on different conditions. That means if something is happening, if something is true, if we have a certain outcome, we either move along, execute a certain thing, or we might execute another thing. Okay. The main conditional statements are if, and this one you already seen during the previous lesson. Use it if to specify a block of code to be executed if a specified condition is true. Example, if it is raining, you take an umbrella. The second one is else. You can use else in the if block. So use else to specify a block of code to be executed if the same condition is false. For example, if it is raining, you take an umbrella. Else, you can leave your umbrella at home. So the else block comes if the first condition is false, you can move into the else block. Then there is else if. Use else if to specify a new condition to test if the first condition is false. For example, if it is raining, take an umbrella. Else, if it is cloudy, take a jacket. Else, wear sunglasses. So if there are multiple conditions that you have to go through, not just if else, you would use if, else if, else if, else if, and then finally else. And the last one is switch. The switch statement is used to perform different actions based on different conditions. It's like a big else if chain. So instead of typing else if multiple times, if you have multiple conditions to choose from, you can just use switch, and if the condition is met, the block of code will be executed. So for example, you decide what to wear based on the weather, and the weather can be rainy, sunny, cloudy, and so on. So whatever the condition is, through the switch statement, you can execute the specific block of code that matches this condition. Okay, so let's get into the code and practice a little bit. Let's create new file here. So 6 dot conditional statements .js. Okay, so let's start with an example that we kind of practiced already during the logical operator, and that's our if statement, right? So first we're going to just do plain if, and let's say we're going to declare a variable weather, right? Let's say whether it is raining. Okay, so if it is raining, let's say if weather is triple equal to raining. So we have an actual condition. Okay, we have this particular variable that has value raining, and we're actually comparing it with the text raining. So if the weather is raining, so if the value stored within weather, this raining, is actually equal to the value that we have here in the if block, so raining is equal to raining, then we're going to go ahead and execute what will be in the curly braces, right? And we can say console.log take an umbrella. Right, so take an umbrella because it is raining. Let's do a statement. Let's print it out. So node 6 tab conditional statement, and we see we're taking an umbrella. So this if block, this is resulted to true, and it went ahead and executed this part of the code. Perfect. So now let's talk about else. So if, let's just say else. So this else is essentially we're closing a block of code if block of code was an else. If the first condition we did not satisfy, so else statement. So let's say let's reassign the variable weather. So because we did declare let, we can store a new data within this one. So instead of this, we will overwrite it on this line 8. To do that, we just don't provide let, we just put the name of the variable and we add new value to it. It was unequal. So let's say it is sunny. So the weather is now being updated to sunny after line 8. And we're going to have the same part of the code. So I'm just going to highlight it, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. So same line of the code is executing here. So if the weather is raining, we take an umbrella, right? But the weather is no longer raining. You can see weather is actually sunny. Now if I'll run this code, so there's nothing coming back, right? No longer raining. So what do we do here? Well, then in this case we can say else. So if this condition actually resulted to false, I'm going to skip this part of the code and I'm going to go directly into else. So something else should happen. Console log, it is not raining. So let's run again. And now we can see it is not raining. So this comparison defaulted to false. It skipped this console log and went to the else block here. And the else block executed by default because the if part was false, right? So it's printed out, it is not raining. Okay, so then there is else if statement. So else if statement is when you have multiple conditions that you have to check. So for example, let's reassign our weather variable again, and let's make it cloudy. Okay, so weather now is cloudy. So let's say if weather is equal to raining, so we can actually just reuse the same block here. If weather is equal to raining, we're going to take an umbrella. Else if, so we know there is expected particular condition that we want to check for. So then else if, and we have another condition to check here, weather is cloudy. So if the weather is cloudy, we want to do something else. So let's take a jacket, right? So it's no longer raining, we don't need an umbrella, but it's cloudy and pretty chilly, so we need to take a jacket. So there's our else if. So it's taking a particular condition that it's trying to look for. And then again, at the very end, we can still have else to close everything out, right? So else, so if this doesn't match, if this doesn't match, it's still going to default to the else. And let's say else console log, just stay home, play video games. I don't know. Not sure what kind of weather is there. Maybe it's sunny and you don't want to go and walk out in the sun. So it's not, weather is now cloudy. So if I'm going to execute this, let's clear it out. Let's comment out all of this stuff right here. Right. So this block is running. We declared weather variable on line 2. reassign it to sunny on line 8, and then reassign it again on line 16. Now this weather is actually cloudy, and we're running all of those checks. First we start and check if the weather is raining. It is not. Then we move to else if block and we check if the weather is cloudy. It is. So we're gonna take a jacket. But if it was something else, something else that rather than rainy or cloudy, it would just go into the final else block. So I'm gonna run it again, and we can see it's take a jacket. Let's say if let's say our weather is bananas, right? Something's crazy happening. Let me run it and just stay home and play video games, right? So it's not raining, it's not cloudy, we default to this. If the weather is raining again, right? So we're just gonna end up in the first block right here. Okay, so you see how that works, how you can use else if statements to kind of go through the logic and execute something specific based on the conditions that you have if they result in true. Right, so let's clear it out. The last one that we're going to talk about is switch. So switch is kind of an easy way to have your multiple else if blocks. For example, let's say weather is sunny again, right? If it were what, if it ever was, okay, it was. So it's sunny again, and we can say switch. We'll start with a switch, and then within the parentheses we looking at a particular variable again. So we're looking at the weather, and now we can start describing our cases, right? In curly braces, we claim our first case. So if the weather is something, so what it is, in the first case, let's say it is raining, right? Then we do what? And you see the syntax is a little bit different here. So you actually have to have case and then semicolon, right? So case is raining, and what do? We do console log it is raining. Take an umbrella. And then we need to break. We need to type in break like this. Why do we need to type break? So the switch statement doesn't move further along to other cases. If condition was met, this line 30 gets executed, and then we need to stop. Don't go through other cases because we will have multiple cases. So the next case is so let's say cloudy, right? And then console log take a jacket, right? Same thing here, we need to break. Let's add one more case. So let's say actually case that weather is sunny. So if the weather is sunny, we're gonna say take sunglasses, right? And again, we have to break here, otherwise it will go execute whatever comes out next. And then let's say none of the conditions were met. You have to have some default case. How what are you going to print out if we didn't have any type of weather matching the actual weather variable here, right? Like, let's say there was no sunny. How are we going to default, right? What are we going to do? So you can say here default, and whatever you want to type out. So let's say console log weather is bananas, right? So it's not raining, it's not sunny, it's not cloudy, it's just something else, something different. And we can still add here break at the end, right? So you're still saying we're done here. This is our end line. So now let's comment all this out, save it, and let's go ahead and execute this code. Okay, so we're actually in the case sunglasses, right? You can see weather is sunny, so it went here switch through switch statement. Is it raining? No, it's not. Is it cloudy? No, it's not. Is it sunny? So is weather here is sunny? Yes, it is. So let's execute this block of code and let's break it. Now let's say weather is A, B, C, D, E, whatever. None of the values here are met. What is going to end up happening? We will end up in the default block, right? Is the weather rainy? No, it's not. Is it cloudy? No. Is it sunny? No. Okay, then just let's default and print this out. So let's run it, and you can see weather is bananas. So as soon as switch statement hits the case, it will execute the code inside. And to prevent it from going through other cases, going any further, you just hit the brake, right? So we can say weather is cloudy and run it. Take a jacket, right? Let's say weather is raining. Run it. It is raining. Take an umbrella. Hopefully this was clear. It was alexusadays. Thanks for watching and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays and we're continuing JavaScript for testers. Today we're going to talk about JavaScript loops. Now we're in module 7 and after that one we're going to move into module 8, JavaScript arrays. Okay, so JavaScript loops. JavaScript loops allow you to repeat actions without writing the same line of code over and over again. Loops enable the automation of repetitive tasks, dynamic test data generation, and the efficient validation of multiple elements or conditions without manually writing code for each case. JavaScript's loops are for loop. The for loop is one of the most common loops. It repeats a block of code a specified number of times. Inside parentheses, it has three parts: initialization, condition, and increment, decrement. And we will review it closely during the code part of the video. Second one is while loop. The while loop continues to execute a block of code as long as the condition specified within parentheses is true. The next one is do while. So do while is like while loop, but the do while loop will always execute the block of code once before checking if the condition is true. Then it repeats the loop as long as the condition is true. And the last two, one is for of loop. The for of loop in JavaScript is a modern loop introduced in ES6, designed to iterate over iterable objects such as array, strings, and more. An iterable object in JavaScript is anything that can be looped over. Think of it as a collection of items that you can go through one by one. Imagine you have a box of crayons. You can take out each crayon one after another. In this analogy, the box of crayons is like an iterable. The action of taking out crayons one by one is like iterating over the iterable. Then the next one is for in loop. The for in loop in JavaScript is used to iterate over the properties of an object. Think of it as checking each pocket in a jacket and finding the name of what's supposed to go in each pocket. Imagine you have a jacket designed for a trip. Each pocket is labeled for a specific item: passport, phone, sunglasses. With the for in loop, you can check the label on each pocket without necessarily taking out the item that's inside it. So for of loop is about taking out each crayon and looking at it. For in loop is about reading the label on each pocket to know what's supposed to go inside. Alright, so let's get into the code and see some examples in action. We are in Visual Studio Code, so let's go ahead and create new file. 7, and let's do loops underscore js.js. Alright, so we're in loops. The first one is for loop. So let's do for loop, and let's start with for, and then within parentheses we need to explain the logic. What do we want from the loop? So first we need to initialize the variable that we will start looping through. So normally we would go with I as an iterable, right? And it starts with 0. So we have a variable I that has a 0 value number stored in it. Now the second is the condition. So while essentially I is less than 3, we're going to do the increment. So we will say I plus plus. Okay, so how do we read this? So essentially we start with I being 0. Here's the variable. And then this loop will execute while I is less than 3. And on each execution, it will increment or make the value of I higher by 1. So it will be first loop run will be I1, I2. So first one will be I0, I1, I2, and then, okay, 2 is actually less than 3, the last number that is less than 3. Then it's going to go I3, and nope, I is not less than 3, so we're not executing it. Okay, so let's have some code after the loop that we will run through. So let's say console.log. This is for a loop going through iteration, and then let's add plus I. All right, let's run it. Node 7 tab. Here we go. So this is for a loop going through iteration 0, the very first one, right? The first run it runs with 0. Then it does the increment, so plus 1. So this is for loop going through iteration 1. This is for loop going through iteration 2. So we can have, let's say, 11 here, right? So it will do run through 10 times. Clear it out, and let's run one more time. Right, stops at 10. So as you see, it's very powerful. In just a small line of code, you can do so many executions. All right, let's clear it out again, and I'm going to comment this out for now. Can we? All right. So the next one is while loop. While loop. Now, while loop is different. It will execute until the condition within parentheses is true. So let's do let I equals 0. So this will be outside of the loop, right? So we have a value of I that is equal to the 0, and we're going to say while I is less than 3, we're going to run the loop. So console.log, and this, let's copy this text here. The only thing I'm going to change this is while loop. I'm going to update the name, while loop, going through iteration. So you see, in this while loop, I'm not updating the I. I'm just saying while I is less than 3. So if I'll run it as is right now, what will happen, it will run indefinitely, until the program gonna just shut it down because this loop make your computer go insane. So your computer can run out of memory. So before that happens, it's just gonna shut it down, right? What you do in the while loop, you provide an update for the value that is outside of the loop. And how we can do that? Well, we can say just over here, I++. We already have I declared here. Here we're just updating the value of the I, of the variable. So we keep on incrementing. So increment is inside the loop. So now in each iteration, it will be incrementing this value, and once this value hits 3, the while loop will stop, because this is true, right? That's first iteration. This is true, that's the second. This is true, that's the third. And now this is false. So as this false, the run stops, right? It's not going to run one more time. Again, if you're not providing this increment, if you're not going and adding +1 to your I or your iterable, right, on every run, it's going to break. So make sure you have this I++ here, right? Or you can say new value of I is equal I +1, right? So this is just a short way of writing it, just I++. Okay, let's run it. And here we go, right? So let's say I remove that, right, and try to run it. Just going, not stopping, just continuously going. All right, I'll do Control C to break the command, to break the loop. But you can see, as long as your computer can handle it, it's just going to run and run and run and run forever. Okay, so this is the main difference of a while loop. As long as this is true, it will keep on running. Okay, let's add our I++ here. And we want to comment this code out as well. All right, so the next loop is do while. So do while is pretty similar, right? The main difference is that your code will be executed once before it gets into the while loop. All right. So how does that look? So let's say let I, and again, you can have any name for the variable that you're iterating through. It doesn't matter. You can say bananas here, right? So let bananas equal to 0, right? So we're gonna say do, and you can see how the syntax is a little bit, well, the layout of the loop is a little bit different. So we start with do, and then we open the curly braces. So essentially your code is running first, right? And that's why it will execute your code at least once, because do runs first. So let's say console.log. So we're going to say it's do while loop. And let's add going through iteration, whatever the iteration we're going through. So instead of I have to put the variable name here, right? Plus bananas. Okay, good. And now we need an increment. So again, you have to have an increment, otherwise your while loop's still going to run indefinitely. So we'll do bananas plus plus. So the same thing as we were doing with I, right? Increasing the value. And now after do, we need to do while. So while, and here's our parentheses with the conditions, while bananas are less than 3. Again, because we're incrementing on each run, right? So let's run it. Okay, do while loop iteration 0, 1, and 2. You can start decreasing value. For example, you can do minus minus, and then have here a value of 10 as the value that you're initializing here with. So then let's say while bananas are, what we can do. So if we're going from 10 to, let's say while bananas are not equal, so exclamation equal to 0, right? So as soon as the 0 is going to stop, so the last one will be a 1 that will be displayed. Run it, and 10, 9, 8, 7, and then there's 1. So while this is not equal to 0, run through the loop, and it does 10, 9, and so on. You can see it, right? Okay, let's clear it out, and let's do next loop. All right, so the next two, they're a bit tricky for of and then for in, right? So for in, we will iterate over an object, and for of loop, we can iterate over an array, let's say. Even though we're going to cover those later, but to get kind of started with it. So for in, right? A loop, and we're going through iterate over an object. Again, we will be covering what object is and what is an array in later videos. But for now, let's just create an object. So let's say let object, and again, you can have any name variable. So in your object, you would normally have like key value pairs. That means you have a name of a variable and then a value that goes in there. So A will store 1, B will store like 2, C will store 3. So essentially it's like a set of variables here within the object, right? And now we can say for, and within our parentheses we'll say let, so key, we'll say we want to see a key in this object. So essentially this is a placeholder. It can be whatever name you want, but we name it a key because we will be returning key, right? And for the code execution, I'm going to say console.log, and let's print the key first, and then we will see how we can print the whole thing, right? I'm going to copy just this, So let's update it to for in loop going through key and then the key value. And let's run it. Okay, A, B, and C. So key value, right? So that's the key, and we're going through key A. That's the key we're going through key B. That's the key we're going through key C. All right. So how do we actually can see what's inside, right? Let's say plus. Let's say space. This is value inside space, and then let's do plus. Now here we actually need to add object, right? And then within square brackets we add key. So let's run it now. Okay, so for in loop going through the key A, this is the value inside 1. So to get to the value, we provide object and the key, right? And each execution that it goes, it just substitutes in the order that goes through it. It substitutes this key by grabbing the first one, and then the object key by grabbing this whole thing, right? So return 1 essentially. Same thing here. Second iteration goes and grabs just the key first, so B, and then we get to the key through this object key, because here we're just saying, well, what is our key 1? What is our key A? What's inside of it? What is our key? What is the value for key B? What is the value for key C? And then it goes and grabs the value, right? Because it's a key value pair. So this is how you get to the value, right? And this is just displaying the key. All right, so I know it's a little bit more complicated than just going through the loop, but we're going to get into the objects. We're going to go into the arrays. It's going to be easier. We will have more examples with that once we will be going through objects and arrays. Now we're going to go with for off loop. For off loop. Now we're going to iterate over an array. So array is a little different from the object. It just we can say let array n equal so within the square brackets we just A, B, and C. Like this is an array of letters essentially, right, or strings A, B, and C. There is an index, and index is the position of the value. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. So index is there by default. Each value has an index where it's placed in the array, right? So object has key value pairs. An array has this invisible index, which indicates the position where this value is located in array. And indexes, the counting starts from 0. So this will be index 0, this will be index 1, this will be index 2. So now let's go and check all of the values here and let's say let value of array. And this is actually like pretty easy way of doing it. We're just saying the array, we're just saying the name of the variable, and then we have this placeholder. The for off loop here will just go through every value, iterate through every value in the array, just through this simple implementation. So for, then you have value, and then off, right, array. So you can see the value is actually being here declared inside the parentheses, right? All right, in curly braces, let's write our console log. So let's print it out, console.log, and let's say so for off loop, this is first value, this is value, how are we going to print this out? This is value space, and let's add just value. So let's do it like that. Let's comment this out, save it, and let's run it. Okay, for off loop, this is value A, this is value B, this is value C. So it goes through this array and prints out every value one by one. Let's say I want to print some value just without a loop based on the index in the array, right? So I can say console dot log, and let's do array and index 1, right? So I'm going to comment this out, clear, and here we have it. So this is index 0, this is index 1, we have B. Kind of similar for this, like if I'm going into an object, I can say console.log, and I can say object. But here, instead of index, I need to provide the key, right? So our key, let's say key, I'm going to use C. So that would be this one. I want to print it out and run it. C is not defined. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, 3. So yeah, the key have to be in quotes. All right, let's clear it out. Now, an extra bonus, an example. Sometimes you will see a nested array, so array inside of an array. So let's take a look how we can kind of understand this and visualize this. All right. So a nested array. So nested. Let's do nested for loop. All right. Let's declare first a couple of things here. So we're going to declare 2 arrays. So we're going to say, let's say let letters. So that's going to be our first array. Then within this array, we're going to store A, B, and C. So 3 values. And then we're going to declare an array called let numbers. And then within this array, which is going to store numbers 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so how do we visualize a nested loop with those 2 arrays? So it's essentially we have outer and inner loop. One will be for letters, the other one will be for numbers. So what will happen, we will start with the outer loop and we'll say, hey, we're iterating through A, and then we go into the inner loop and it says A1, A2, and 3. And then the inner loop is completed, and let's go back to the outer loop. Hey, now it's B turn. And again, it iterates with B through the inner loop, B1, B2, B3. And then it goes to C as an outer loop as the next value, and then goes back into the inner loop and says C1, C2, C3. So you're going to kind of visually see how it works, right? But let's just show it for. So let I equals 0. So this is our iterable, right? So I is less than letters. And like we don't know, sometimes the lengths can be something different. We know here it is 3 values, right? But let's say I don't know the lengths of the array. We can just say letters dot length. And that will grab the length of this array, so 1, 2, 3 characters. It will say I. Essentially, this says I is less than 3, right? And the next is let's do I plus plus. So we increment the value on each run. We open curly braces, and now here we start the inner loop. So here we say for, and then let's say let j equals to 0. J is less than numbers dot length, right? So now we're taking the length of this array. So essentially it says J is less than 3, right? And do again J plus plus. So again incrementing, right? And let's do a console log print for both of those. So let's do console.log. And let's use backtick, right? So here we'll have 1 value provided, and so let's do this is outer loop variable. So here we're going to place letters, right? And to see what letter it is, we need to access the I, right? So within the square brackets, we put I. So letters.I, and then this is inner loop variable, and we want to say, so again, $, curly braces, and here we want to say numbers, right? Numbers. And for numbers we have J, right? For each iteration, we're iterating J here. All right, let's see what we get as an output. Run it. Okay, here we go. This is outer loop variable A, and this is inner loop variable 1. And then it again was A, it goes through the second one. So this is outer loop variable A, and this inner loop variable 2. So you see how it does it. So A, and it goes, okay, we got first variable in the outer loop, and then it goes to the inner 1, 2, 3. Okay, this one is done. Then it goes, okay, B, and then again it goes inside 1, 2, 3, and then C, and inside 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of how it runs through it, right? Iterates through the nested loops. So you might encounter nested loops. I mean, it's quite common for whatever reasons that you might need to use it for, like verification on, or like getting some values out. So it's just good that to practice it, to understand how it works, to be familiar that there is a way to nest loops and kind of go through the variables like that. All right, so this is it for this video. This was alexusadays, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays. So we're continuing with JavaScript for testers, and today we're going to have JavaScript arrays. Now we are in module 8. After JavaScript arrays, we're going to go into JavaScript objects. JavaScript arrays are a way to store multiple values in a single variable. Think of them as a list of items where each item can be accessed by its position or index in the list. You can create an array by using square brackets. Inside the square brackets, you can place any number of values separated by commas. Each item in an array has a numerical index starting with 0 for the first element. In the array, you can access elements. So to retrieve an element from an array, use the array name followed by square brackets containing the index of the element you want to access. You can modify elements. To change an existing element, you assign a new value to its use in its index. The syntax is similar to accessing an element, but with an assignment operation. You can loop through array. To perform operations on each element in an array, you can iterate over the array using loops. Common loops include for off, and the array method for each. You can create multidimensional arrays. An array can hold other arrays as its elements, forming a multidimensional array. The inner arrays can be accessed by using successive square brackets for each level of depth. And we're going to have all those examples in code. So right now we're just kind of covering the basic theory of it. Now, there are a lot of properties and methods of JavaScript arrays. We're not going to have all of the examples in the code. You don't really need to know them all to be able to do testing and verification. We're just going to cover what we're going to code what will be expected for you because it's going to be used by you. But I'm going to talk about all those different methods and properties so you're aware that they exist, right? So first is the length property. This property returns the total number of elements in the array. It's not zero based, so if an array has one item, its length is going to be 1. You can add elements to an array using push. So adds one or more elements to the end of an array and returns the new length of the array. Or you can do unshift, adds one or more elements to the beginning of an array and returns the new length. You can remove elements by pop, removes the last element from an array and returns that element. You can remove elements using shift, removes the first element from an array and returns that element. You can also use splice, can remove existing elements and or add new elements to an array. It takes multiple parameters The first specifies the starting index for changes, the second specifies the number of elements to remove, and any additional parameters are new elements to add. You can find elements using index of, returns the first index at which a given element can be found, or -1 if it's not present. You can do last index of, returns the last index at which a given element can be found, or -1 if it's not present. You can use find, returns the value of the first element in the array that satisfies the provided testing function. You can do find index, returns the index of the first element in the array that satisfies the provided testing function. Iterating over elements. So you can do for each, executes a provided function once for each array element. You can do map, creates a new array with the results of calling a provided function on every element. You can do filter, creates a new array with all elements that pass the test implemented by the provided function. You can also do checking of elements by using includes, determines whether an array includes a certain value among its entries, returning true or false. You can use sum, tests whether at least one element in the array passes the test implemented. You can use every, tests whether all elements in the array pass the test implemented by the provided function. Combining and slicing. Concat will merge two or more arrays into a new array. You can use slice, returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array. You can also do transformation of an array using join, joins all elements of an array into a string. You can use reduce, applies a function against an accumulator and each element in the array from left to right to reduce it to a single value. The power of reduce comes from the fact that the reduction can be any operation you want. It could be addition to some numbers, or it could be concatenation to merge strings, or anything else you might need to do to combine an array of values into one value. So if you have an array of numbers, you can summarize all of those numbers within the array using reduce. And then there's reduce right, applies a function against an accumulator and each value of the array from right to left to reduce it to a single value. Now, this covers the most of the methods that you can do with arrays, but we're going to code only some of them because you will not be using all of them. But it's good to be aware that they exist. Okay, so now let's get into the code. Okay, so let's start with beginning of creation of a new file for the arrays. So I'm going to hit new file arrays underscore, let's do 8.arrays underscore js. Okay. So here, let's start with creating an array with 3 elements. So array with 3 elements. So we're going to have an array of colors. So let's say colors are going to be the name of the array. And now within the square brackets, we're going to provide colors. So red, green, and let's do blue. All right. So we have an array. It has 3 colors now. If we want to access the first element of the array, we can do it by index. So access first element. And they all index. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. Remember, indexing starts with 0. So if I'll do console.log, and now I have to provide colors, and within the square brackets index I'm trying to access. If I'll print this out, node 8, and here we go, red. All right. Let's say I want to store it in the variable and then access it later. So I can do that. I can say let's say green, that's our new variable. And within this variable, I'm going to store colors and 1. So this index, right? Now if I'll go and print out console.log green, so I'm going to go and print this variable. Now this variable holds colors 1, which is this green. Let's run it. And here it is. We got red and green. Okay. What if I want to modify an element in the array? So I can do that. I can say colors 1 is, let's make it equal to yellow, right? So now I updated green to yellow in the array. And if I'll go and just print the whole array out, console.log, and let's do colors, the whole thing, run it, and where we have output red, yellow, blue. Okay, perfect. So let's comment this all out. And let's move to the next one. All right, so let's talk about adding elements to the array, right? So let's create an empty array. Create an empty array. One thing that you want to do, again, you want to pause the videos, right? Because I might be typing too fast or talking too fast. You want to slow down the video and pause it when the code is out there on the screen, and you want to go and type this thing yourself. You want to practice hands-on in order to remember things, right? So we're creating a new empty array. So we're going to say let fruits and just empty square brackets. We have an empty array now, right? So let's start adding elements to it. So we can add elements by doing push on the array. So we can say fruits dot push. Let's say we're going to push an apple here, right? Now, if we're going to go and do console log on fruits, the whole array, I'm going to clear this out and run the command. Here it is. Now we have an apple added, right? Let's say we want to add one more element. So let's say banana, right? Push banana. And now here, let me print out just the first index, not the first one, not 0, index 1. So the element we just pushed into the array. Let's print it out and see if it's in the array. And here we have a banana. So it is now stored in this array. Okay. Now let's practice looping through an array. So loop through an array, and for this one we're going to use for loop, right? So first we need to create an array of numbers. Let's create let numbers underscore 1. So it's going to be our first array of numbers, and here we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I have 5 elements here in the array of numbers. So how do I loop through it? So we can use our for loop, for example, right? So for loop, and we can say for, we can say for, and then within parentheses we're going to set let I equals to 0, right? So that's our index. We start with 0, and then as long as I is smaller than numbers 1 array dot length, right? The length of the array, which is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? As long as I is smaller than 5, we want to add +1 to the I while we loop through it. So each loop will go and add one more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until it's 5, and then the loop stops, right? Like we covered in the loops. So we can say console.log, and over here we can say numbers underscore 1, and then inside of it just provide I. So each loop iteration will go and call numbers 0, right? Then it will increment by 1, numbers 1, increment by 1, numbers 2, and so on, until it will go through the whole length of the array here. So let me clear out the console and let's print it out. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, perfect. Again, let me comment this out so it doesn't show in the console, and let's go to the next one. We can create new array that only has even numbers. So actually, let's uncomment this numbers 1 array so we have it and we can use it. Right? Let's do a new variable and we'll call it even numbers. Right? And within even numbers, we're gonna do numbers 1 array dot filter, and then here we're gonna use a function. So that's something that is upcoming video, but just we're gonna have a quick introduction to it. Dot filter and then say function. And for the function, again, I need to provide a values in parentheses. So let's filter function. And this variable is just anything. You can have anything for it, any name. I just choose number because it's easier to understand what is being passed into the function. And over here, we open curly braces and we start returning. So return number. So every value that is being passed into, we will return it modulo 2. Okay, so we're going to do return numbers modulo 2 equals to 0. So what does it mean? So we will be passing along number by number, one by one through this array. And if modulo 2 means that if a number contains an even amount of 2's, like for example 6, right? 6 has 2, 2, and 2. Like 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6, right? So modulo 2 to 6 will return a 0 as a result. You can fill up the whole number with the 2's. It will be a 0. Like consider like how many of 2's you can fit in, right? If it all results in no remainder left, great. If we have 7, for example, you'll have 2, 2, 2, and then 1. So if this remainder returns after the modulo operation, it doesn't result in a 0. That means this number is not even, right? There is a remainder if you do modulo 2. If you do modulo 2 and then there's 0, that means that the number is even. So this is odd. 7 will result in 1 remainder. 6 will result in no remainders. That means this number is even. So any even number modularized by 2 will result in 0, and that means it is even. So if the number modulo 2 is equal to 0, that means this number is even. And we're going to store all the even numbers based on this filter function into the even array, into the new variable, even numbers. So let's close this function. So we have to close curly braces here. And then we also need to close this parentheses. Here we go. Now if I'll go and do console.log, even numbers, let's do numbers, and run it. I got 2, 4, and 6, because all of those values, when they operation modulo 2 executed on them, will result in 0. And they're all added to the even numbers. Now this might be a little bit more complex thing to understand, but as you practice it, as we're going to move into functions, we're going to practice this a little bit more. It's going to become clear. For now, just type it out and see that it is actually adding those numbers, the even numbers, into new array here that we store in the even numbers variable. All right, so let's comment this out as well. Okay, let's move into for string. Let's actually uncomment this colors array. So colors, red, green, and blue. Nothing else. We didn't do any other operations. They all commented out here. So we have this colors array, and we can do for each to go through it. So let's do colors dot for each. So this is a method that is available to us for an array, and we can say here function again, and we're passing color as a variable, a placeholder, right? And then we'll console log color. Again, so what it does, it goes through the colors array, each element that for each it assigns a color and then prints it out. Let's take a look. So color red, green, blue. So for each is a very useful method. You'll be using it 100%. So it goes through an array, grabs every value, and then you can do some operation on that value. In our case, the operation that we're doing on that value is printed back out into the console over here. So it goes through this one, this one, this one, and then prints them all out. Okay. All right. So now let's do join for the array. So we're gonna create an array of words, And let's add a couple words here. So we're going to add hello, hello, and we're going to add world, right? So 2 words. Now we can create a sentence out of that array by joining them together. So I can say let sentence as a new variable, and within a sentence I'm going to store words dot join. And we need to provide how do we want to join the values within the array. What will be our delimiter, right? And if I'll just open here quotes and add a space, so it will add a space when joining them. That will be the delimiter for each value within the array. And now I can say console.log sentence. So clear it out and let's run it. So I have a hello world. So it joined the values within the array, and now I have a single string stored in the sentence. If I'll just print out here, for example, just the words array and run it, I have still 2 separate values here, hello and world, and then we're doing join operation, store it in the sentence variable, and then we print out the whole sentence, hello world. All right, let's comment this out. All right, now let's try the slice method. So to do that, we will need an array of numbers. So let's create an array numbers, and we're going to store here like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set of numbers in this array. So I can specify what kind of part of array I'm taking it and store it in a new variable using slice. I will say let sliced numbers, and it will be equal to numbers dot slice. And now I need to provide on which elements I'm slicing it. So you need to provide indexes, right? So I can say index 1 and then index 3. The last one, index 3, is not included. So you will get elements from index 1 up to index 3, not included. So if I'll console log log sliced numbers, what I will get as a result 1 and 2. So this is 0 index, this is index 1, so starts from here. This is index 2, also being added in between, and then this is index 3, not included. If I'll do it up to 5 and run it, I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If I'll just say -1 and run it, it will actually give me the last value of the array. So for example, you want to know what is the last value that is stored in your array and you have no clue, you can just run a simple slice -1 on the array. So numbers dot slice -1, store it in the variable, and then print it out, and you will see what is the last value that is in that array. All right, so now let's talk about two multi-dimensional arrays. So let's create a two-dimensional array. So we're going to call it matrix. So let matrix be equal to, we open in square brackets, and now here we can provide multiple arrays just like that. 1, 2, and let's say 3. They're all empty right now. There are no values. So this is array that has other arrays inside. And let's add 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, and 9. All right, so we have multiple rows here, row 0, row 1, row 2. So they're accessed by index as well, right? Row 0, that's index 0 for this row. This is going to be row 1, so index 1 for this row, and then this is row 2, right? And now we can access the values by going first to the index of the row and then to the index of the value. So if we want to access the row 0, the very first number, that will be row 0 index and then the value 0 index, right? So Let me show you how we can do that. So we can say, let's do first row and first number, right? First row, first number. So something like that. So I can say matrix 0. So I am inside the first row. Now I am inside here. And then I provide the index of the number I want to access. So the very first index. So 0, 0, right? Let me print it out. Console.log. First row, first number. I'm going to comment all this. Clear the console and run it. Here we go. It's 1. If I want to, let's say 2 and then the mid value. So 0, 1. Row 2, so 0, 1, 2, this is the second row. So we're accessing row 2 and value index 1. If I'll print this out, I will get 8 back. Okay, and the last one, the most kind of complicated for now, I guess, but we want to be able also, if we have a multi-dimensional array, we want to be able to go into that and loop through all of the values within the multidimensional array, right? So let's do loop through. In our case, 2-dimensional array. All right, so how do we do that? So first we need to loop through the first row. So for that we can say for let I equal to 0. So this is our counter, our index stored in I, right? So I is less than matrix dot length, and then we increase it by 1. So this will go and let me open curly braces here. So this will go and loop through the rows, right? Loop through rows. So essentially this is our outer loop, right? Now we go inside and we create another for loop here, and let's give our index here a different name. So j, for example, equals to 0, and then j is less than matrix I, so a length of a specific row dot length, and increment j by 1 with every loop. So what this will do, this will loop through values, right, or columns. Loop through, set a comment, loop through columns, and this is our inner loop. And it's okay if if you don't get it right now, just type it out, see how it works. As we go and practice more, or as you encounter them and try them out, it will become clear. You just have to keep at it, right? And here now we can say console.log matrix and I and j. So what this is doing, it is going first 0, 0, okay, printed, but then it goes 0, 1, printed, then it goes 0, 2, printed, then it goes 1, 0, printed, 1, 1, printed, 1, 2, printed, then it goes 2, 0, printed, 2, 1, printed, 2, 2, printed. And let's see it in action. So node 8 tab, and there's something else printing here. Let's remove this being printed. So we just have the for loop. I'm gonna clear out the console and run it one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it goes through each value and prints it out one by one. Okay, so I know this one is a little bit more complex. We are getting into more complicated stuff, but as you practice it, you'll get more familiar with things. You want to definitely focus on a couple things, right? So creation of the array, accessing the elements of the array, updating, adding values to the array, and updating the array right here. And just try with the regular for loop for not a multidimensional but regular array and print the values out. And also joining and slicing, right? With multidimensional array and looping through multidimensional array, that might take a little bit of time to understand how that works. But with practice, you're definitely going to get it. Okay. So I'll see you in the next video. This was alexusadays. Thank you and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays, and today we're talking about JavaScript objects. So we're getting close to the end of the series here. We are in module 9. And the next one will be JavaScript and JSON. So JavaScript objects are a collection of properties where each property is a key value pair. The key is always a string, and the value can be a string, number, array, functions, or even another object. Understanding objects is crucial for testers, as they form the backbone of most JavaScript programs, especially when dealing with test data, configurations, and structured test outcomes. In simpler terms, an object in JavaScript is like a container for values in the form of properties and functionality in the form of methods. You can access the properties and methods of an object using dot notation or bracket notation. You can easily modify existing properties of an object or add new ones. In JavaScript, objects are reference types. This means if you assign an object to another variable, any changes made to the object will be reflected in the new variable. Okay, so be careful updating your objects, and if that object is assigned to a variable, the changes will take effect in the variable too. All right, so let's get into the code and see some examples of an object. Okay, so let's start with the new file. So 9 object underscore js.js. Great. So let's start with creating a simple object. So create object, and let's say it's going to be a dog, right? So I'm going to say let dog. So that's going to be a variable where I'm going to store our object equals to, and then we have a curly braces here. So this is an empty object that we created, a dog. Now we need to create our first key value pair. So I'm going to say name of the dog, and let's give him name good boy. All right. So remember when I was talking about the objects in the beginning of the video, I said that the key is always a string. So you have an option to actually emphasize this and put quotations around the name. So this is the key, right? And this is the value. So this is the key value pair. Key is always a string, but I find it more readable not to have any quotes around the key. It is easier than to read, at least for me, the key value pairs. And then what JavaScript will do, it will convert it to a string, but this is absolutely acceptable format of creating key value pairs. So no quotes needed here. Okay, so we have the name of the dog. It's a good boy, and let's give the age 5, right? So you see we have different simple types here. It's absolutely fine. So name is good boy, age is 5. So now let's give color. I'll say the dog is going to be brown. And let's also have a breed, right? So the good boy is going to be Labrador. Okay, perfect. So now, with that being said, what else can we add here? Well, even though we didn't speak about functions yet, but actually let's give a function so our dog can do something. Let's say our dog can say woof, right? So I have to separate it with a comma here as well. That's another like property. So, and the name will be speak. So I can say speak and then say function here. We're not passing any values, so the parentheses is empty. And now within the curly braces, the code block for the function will be, so let's say console.log, and we gotta have say this dot name plus, and let's say says woof. All right, so I need to explain something over here. You see how we have this keyword? So this keyword is required. It is used so we can access the current object's name property, right? So if I run this function without providing a name to the function, I can actually go and access this value right here within the object. So this key is necessary so I could actually go and access the name right here without passing anything specifically within the function itself, right? So this keyword is used to access the current objects name. Let me put it in quotes, name property. So if you want to, within this method or a function, you want to access other properties of the function, like for example name over here, you have to use this keyword before the property. Okay, so our object is done. We have a dog. It's a Labrador. The name of the dog is Good Boy. He's 5 years old, color is brown, and he can say woof. All right, perfect. So what can we do now? Let's actually do some manipulations with the object, right? So first, let's access dog's name using dot notation. All right, so how can we do this? Let's do console log to print it out, and here let's say the dog's name is space and then plus, so we can say dog, so this is the object, right? And then here we, using the dot notation, we just access the name like that. All right, let's run it. So node 9 tab, the dog's name is Good Boy. Perfect. All right, what else can we do? Let's access the property using bracket notation. So it's a different way how you can access a property. Access, let's use dog's age, right? Dog's age using bracket notation. All right, so we can do that. Let's say console.log the dog's age is, let's add a space, plus, and we can say dog, and now in square brackets, in quotes, we need to provide age, right? Because it is a string, right? So it doesn't interpret it as a variable. We put it in quotes like this. All right, and let's run our code again. Now we have two printouts. So the dog name is Good Boy. The dog age is 5. Perfect. Okay, so let's also modify an existing property of an object. Let me clear this out. I'm gonna make it a little bit more concise here, so you can see. So modify existing property. So what we're going to modify is we're going to update the age of the dog. So through the same dot notation as we printed it out, we can update it as well. So I can say dog dot age is equal to 6. Now this value here will be updated to 6. And let's print it out. Console.log new age is, and plus, and we access the same way, so dog.age. All right, it's printed. New age is 6. Perfect. So also let's add a new property to the object, add a new property. And what we can do here, let's see if this dog is trained or not. So we can say dog dot and then add the name of the key and the value. So I'm going to say is trained and the value is true. So the dog is trained. Now I can say console.log and let's say is the dog is trained. All right, and let's get our answer. So dog dot is trained. So you see now it is available over here. Now if I'll call it again, is the dog trained? True. So it is trained. So we just added this property here inside the object. You don't see it, it doesn't update in the code, but it's actually the object that is stored is actually updated with this property here. Okay, and the last thing, let's call the method. So we know that the dog can say woof, so let's do that. Call the method inside the object. So it is as simple as saying dog dot and then the method name with parentheses right here. Let's run it. All right, good boy says woof. So this is like the essentials, the basics of an object. Type it out, practice. This was alexusadays, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays, and today we're going to talk about JavaScript and JSON. Now we're quite far in our JavaScript series for testers. We're at module 10. This is almost the last one. We have a couple more left, so JavaScript Functions will be next, and after that we're going to cover some test frameworks using JavaScript. JSON, or JavaScript Object Notation, is a popular data representation format widely used in web development, particularly in APIs. APIs stand for Application Programming Interface. It's the backbone of data transfer on the web, making it a crucial component for developers and testers alike. When you're testing APIs, you're essentially working with requests and responses that often use JSON to transmit data. This data can include anything from user information, configuration settings, to the result of a query. Understanding JSON structure and how to manipulate it is crucial for verifying API responses, configuring test environments, and ensuring that the data being passed between systems is accurate. Data types supported by JSONs are strings, so textual data enclosed in double quotes. You can see here key value pair. The whole JSON is enclosed in curly braces. Name has quotes around it. This is the key. And then John Doe is a string. It is a value, also has quotes around it. Then numbers, so could be integers, decimals, floats, doesn't matter. It's just one type, number. Has no quotes around numbers. So 30 has no quotes, as you can see. Booleans, so true or false values, no quotes needed. Again, is verified is a key. It has quotes around it, but true has no quotes. Null, so represents null value. Again, no quotes. Arrays, so JSON supports arrays and an ordered list of values, just like JavaScript, right? You have an opening curly braces to start JSON. You have languages as a key, and the value for that key is actually an array. And within this array, you have multiple languages like English, Spanish, French. The last one is object, so collection of key value pairs as an object. So you open a JSON object in curly braces, which is an address, starts the key's address, and the value within that address is another object, which has straight key value pair and a city key value pair. So let's talk about JSON versus JavaScript object. JSON is a subset of JavaScript. This means that any valid JSON is also valid JavaScript syntax for object literals. But not all JavaScript objects literals are valid JSON. JSON's format is stricter, requiring, for example, that keys be enclosed in double quotes, which is not a requirement in JavaScript. Since JSON is strictly a data format, methods and functions are not supported in JSON. So like in the previous video when we were talking about object dog, there was a function to woof, like bark, right? You can't have it in JSON. JSON is just to pass data. There's no functions, right? JSON data can be passed around in two primary forms when dealing with web applications or APIs, as a plain text string or as a JavaScript object. This string must be parsed into JavaScript object before it can be easily worked with in JavaScript code. So we'll have an example of this in the code in the continuation of the video. Let's take a look at here JSON string versus object format. So first line we have here just the JSON, and we have name in double quotes, John double quotes, age in double quotes, 30 no quotes because it's a number, city double quotes, New York double quotes. So this is just a plain JSON. Then we have JSON converted to a string, and you see it opens with a single quote and it closes with a single quote. So this whole line is a string, essentially a text stored in this variable. The last one is JSON string converted to JavaScript object. So again, we see no single quotes before or after. It starts with curly braces as an object would. And then we don't have any double quotes around keys like a normal JavaScript object, right? Right, so you will be working in parsing strings, JSON strings into JavaScript objects and converting JSON into strings and vice versa. So this is something that we should actually practice hands-on and understand how it's done. For you as a tester, it will be important to be able to retrieve JSON, to parse JSON, and then go and verify the data. Many times you will be working with APIs. So API transfer, a lot of times it will transfer like payloads with data will be in JSON. So when you receive that, you'll have to go like line by line and verify that you get correct data. So the values are correct, and also the type of data is correct, and so on. So yeah, let's get into the code. So let's start with creating two files. The first file is actually going to be our JSON. So let's create the same dog. So it's going to be dog JSON now. We had a dog object here in lesson 9. So for this one, let's create 10.dog.json. This is one file. So this is where we're going to store our JSON. So it's not a JavaScript anymore. It's a JSON, right? And then we also going to create new file. So 10.json_gs.js. So this is where we're going to have JavaScript code working with JSON. So first things first, we need to create a JSON object over here. I'm just going to go into my JavaScript object. I will grab this whole thing, and we're going to convert it manually, this JavaScript object, into JSON. So let's go back into dog.json, paste it here, and you see it errors out immediately. Okay, so the first thing what we're doing with the JSON, we want to remove anything that is not JSON related. So the let dog variable has to go away. So JSON starts with opening and closing curly braces. Also, as we're talking about, JSON does not support functions, so function will have to go away. There's no comma on the last key value pair, so that was removed. Last thing that we need to do here for the keys, we need to add quotes. So then it will become a valid JSON file. All right, so this is a valid JSON file. Now let's think about some other data types that we could add here. So let's add, is the dog vaccinated? And we're going to add true. So this is our Boolean. See, it is supported. Now you see this comma is highlighted in red because it is a last value. I don't have anything else, so I want to remove that if it were the last value, but we're going to add some other data types here. Let's add an object. So we're going to add owner, and this is our key for the value owner. Again, we open in curly braces here, and we want to add an object. So I'm going to say name, and the name of the owner will be John Doe. Okay, so this is the name of the owner. Now we can also add another key value pair within this object. We can say, for example, phone, and some sort of phone to reach. Okay, so this is our object, And next one, let's have an array. So let's say favorite foods. And here, array in the square brackets, right? So let's say chicken, 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 and say hot dog. Hot dogs. So good boy likes hot dogs. Awesome. So this is our JSON, valid JSON file. There are no errors. This whole thing. We can pass now this as anywhere in the internet, pretty much. But what we're gonna do that we're gonna import this into our JavaScript file so we can work with it and do some operations like going forward, like verification and stuff. But for now, let's just import it and type it out and print it out in the console C, to see. But for now, let's just import it and type it out in the console and parse it from one state to another. So I want to do import, and let's say 10.dog dog. Actually, we want to import, and first we want to import it as something. So essentially, we're given a value name or variable name for that import. So we're going to import it into variable dog, right? Now we want to say from where we imported it, and it has to be in quotes. So I am importing it from the same directory, so /, and it gives me options. Okay, what are you importing here? I am selecting 10.dog.json. Okay, it is important now. And first thing first, let's try and print it out. Console log dog. So I want to print it out whatever I just imported. See if it's actually imported properly. So node 10, and not the JSON. We want to tab one more time to switch to another file. So 10 JSON_gs.js. Let's run it. Oh, and we have an error here. All right, so to load an ES module, set type module in the package JSON. Finally, we're starting using our package JSON that we created at the very first video. So it seems there is some configuration that is missing. We can't just go and straight import JSON into JavaScript. We need to update our configuration. That is done in package JSON. So we can see it's asking us set type module in package JSON. So let's copy that. Go to package JSON, and let's, after our name, add it right here. Now, while we in package JSON, you see how the config is actually in JSON, same as our dog.json. So it is exactly the same format, absolutely the same. All the configuration file values here, it's all in JSON format. Right? You probably didn't notice that until we actually got into the lesson. So, JSON is very universal. It's in many places. Okay, so we added type module as we were asked in this error. Let's go back to .json_gs. I'm going to clear out the console and do it one more time. Okay, so now there's another error. We added the module. Type error missing, needs an import attribute JSON. So assertion type missing. So the thing is, you can't just straight import JSON unless you do some configurations here, right? The first one that we needed to do is that we needed to update package JSON with type module to be able to import. This was resolved, but when I try to run it one more time, there's another error popping up. And that error says that you have to actually do an assertion here. And the same way how you will be asserting as a tester, we actually need to say assert that the type of the file. So we're making sure that the type of the file that we're importing here is actually JSON. Otherwise, it's not going to let us run it. Okay, so there's assertion. There's our first test coming up. All right, let's clear it out and run it one more time. Okay, here we go. So the object got imported. We got a dog stored and we print it out. Here's our good boy, now coming from the JavaScript file. All right, great. So now let's do some magic with JSON. So first thing, we know that JSON is passed along as a string many times, right? So we can say let dog, let's do underscore string and equal to, and we have to issue this command, JSON dot stringify, and then pass in the object dog. Okay, so now if I'll go and print out console.log dog string, let me clear out the console. Now I'm going to print out this object right here. Run it, and now you can see this whole file, this whole JSON object got stored in this variable as a string, and it's coming to the console as a string. This is all text now, right? Great. So now what are we going to do? Let's actually parse it back to an object. So I don't want it to be a string. I want it to be back JSON file so I can work with it, right? So I'm going to do, let's add a comment, convert JSON string to an object. And then here, let's add a line, convert JSON object to a string. Okay, so let's save it in dog underscore object. I'm going to say JSON.parse. So that's another keyword to make it from the string to an object. And in the parse, we need to provide the variable here that has the string stored. And now also let's print it out. Console.log dog object. All right, great. I'm going to clear out the console and let's run one more time. And now we have two values coming back. One is a string and the other one is an object, JSON object, right? So that's how you work with JSON. Now we're going to have more examples when we're going to get into the frameworks of testing with JavaScript. So we will be actually, as a tester, what you will be doing, right? You will be receiving APIs with payloads that carry data. And I'll give you an example right now. So this web page, developer.mozilla.org, and I'm here on the page about JSON. You can go ahead and type it out and read about it. So, but when I refresh this page, so I went into the DevTools, right click, inspect, I am in the console, I refresh the page, sorry, I go into the network tab, I refresh the page, and there's a bunch of API we can see in the console, in the network communication. So one of them, for example, is who am I? So there's a request that is being sent to the server asking who am I, and then there is a response, and look at that. The response right here that's coming back from this endpoint from a server saying, hey, this is who you are. Like, I'm not logged in, so there's no username, it's null, not authenticated, no email provided, none of that. But it knows for sure that I am from United States. This is the payload. This is the API response, and the data, this format is in JSON. So when you're testing, you would go and start verifying this line by line. Like, is the country United States? Is the ISO US? Is the username valid? Is the data type correct? And so on and so on. So knowing JSON, working with JSON is very useful for QA engineer. Okay, so we are all done for this video. We're going to see you in the next one. This was alexusadays. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays, and we are in JavaScript Functions. So this is module 11, and almost the last video. The next one will be test framework, and we will do some of the testing based on all of the data, all of the things that we covered. Okay, so JavaScript Functions. A function in JavaScript is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task. A function is defined once and can be executed or called any number of times. Functions can take inputs, call parameters, process them, and return an output. There are several ways to define a function in JavaScript. The most common method is the function declaration. You type out function word, then you give a name of a function. For example, here is greet. Then you open parentheses. If you want to provide any parameters, you put them into the parentheses. And after that, within the curly braces, you have a code block that has been executed. To execute the function you've defined, you call it by its name, follow the parentheses. For example, I declared function greet, and then I want to call it. I'll just have to have the function name with parentheses to get it called. Functions can take parameters which are like placeholders for the values you pass to the function when you call it. These values are called arguments. Functions can return values back to the caller using the return statement. Once the return statement is executed, the function stops running and returns the specified value. Functions in JavaScript can be anonymous. They don't need a name. You can store it in a variable. So let's go into the code and try this out. Okay, so let's start with creating a new file. So 11.js underscore functions.js. All right, so let's start with a simple function declaration. And we've used some of that before, so some things might be familiar to you already. So let's start with word function, and then we're going to give a name to that function. So let's say greet. Then we open parentheses, and then we will have curly braces. Now, within the curly braces, we're going to provide the code that we want to execute. So when this function is called, we're going to execute console logged with a message, hello world. All right, perfect. So you see we did not provide any parameters here. We're not passing anything into the function. All that is going to happen when I call this function, this line of code will get executed. And I can call it multiple times. So if I'll call greet, say 2 times or 3 times, right? This message will be printed out 3 times. So let's go ahead and try it. Node, what happened here? So let's try it. Node and 11 tab. Run it, and you can see the function is executed 3 times, and I have hello world printed out 3 times. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to remove the colon of the function. Next one, let's have an example of a function with parameters, right? So function with parameters. So we're going to have a function, and let's call it hello. And here we will provide some value, right? So let's say we're going to have name as a variable that's going to be passed along. This is just a placeholder, right? Now our console message, let's update it to, let's use backtick, hello, and then we will provide the name variable inside. So okay, so now it will print out hello name, and the name is a parameter that I'm going to pass along, right? So let's say hello, and here I'm going to say Alex, right? And clear it out, run it, and here we go. So hello Alex. There are some proper names for the values that have been passed along. So when a function is declared, this is a parameter. So name is a parameter during the declaration right here. But when function is called, this value that we provide is actually called argument. Okay, let's comment out calling of the function. And the next one is anonymous function. When you have an anonymous function, you don't actually provide the name of the function, so you want to have it in the variable. So let's say let's call it anonymous underscore function. Here we have let anonymous function, so we have variable, and now without a name, we can just say function, and if we want, we can pass parameter or have no parameter. Let's have it print something. So console.log, I am anonymous. All right, great. Now, and then all you need to do is provide the variable with parentheses to call it. Let's run it, and it is being called. So there's no name, that's why it's called anonymous, right? And we stored it here in the variable, and then it's called through the variable name, right? Okay, now let's go with the next example, and that would be an arrow function. Arrow function. So it's a newer syntax. You kind of have to get used to it a little bit, but there is a difference when you have an arrow function. So how I like to have an arrow function, I still use curly braces for it, but there's also a way not to use curly braces. Okay, so let's have an example. Let's say we're going to have a function named let's say hello, right? Then we provide equal, then we provide parentheses. So within parentheses we can have values, and then we have this arrow symbol and curly braces. So this is essentially our arrow function, and I can say here console log hello, I am arrow function, right? And now we have to call it. So let's say hello by calling it here. So I'm going to comment out the anonymous function, and let's run it. And hello, I am arrow function. So this is a way when you actually use parentheses. There is another way, a shorter way. So let's say I was actually doing some operations here. So let's say we're going to be doing addition, right? So this function is going to add two numbers together. So I will have A and B, and I will return as a result of the function A plus B. So what needs to happen here, I need to provide some values, right? So say add, and then I'll provide 2 and 3. Let's run it. Okay, so it's not returning anything because we need to actually print it out. It did return, but there's nothing being printed out. So you have to place it in a console log or store it, the output, into a variable and then print it, right? But we're going to go and directly print it out in the console log. Now let me clear it out and run it again. Okay, we have a value that's come back. This is 5. So this is our arrow function where you actually use curly braces like in the normal function, and you have to provide return. But there is even a shorter way to do it. So if you remove the curly braces, and you also can remove return, and you just place it on one line like that, that's like even shorter way. This is still a valid arrow function, and I can run it. You see it works. I can provide like 3 and 3 and run it. Still works as expected. Okay, so I'm gonna comment everything out, and now actually let's delete it for now. Let's go and create a set of function that will imitate a calculator, and we might use it later on, right? So let's create a calculator. All right, here we go. So the first one we're going to do, let's do an add function. So here we're going to just have a regular declaration. So we're going to say function, and we're going to name it add, and it accepts A and B. And here in curly braces, we're going to return A plus B. All right, so this is a normal function declaration with a name. And now next one, let's do an arrow function with curly braces. So I'm gonna say let subtract, and that's gonna be equal again A B provided within the parentheses. Now I do arrow function with curly braces, and I return A minus B. Okay, so That is the second function that will be available in our calculator. Now let's do the third one, and let's do multiply, but we're going to do it all in one line. So let multiply, and we use an arrow function here, right? So again, we're expecting two values, and we have placeholder A and B for them. And now here we simply have an arrow and then A multiplied by B. That's it. When you don't have curly braces, you don't have to provide return. Like, you can fit everything in one line. And let's have last one as like regular but anonymous function. So I'm gonna call it divide, and here we're gonna have function. It is expecting two values, so A and B, and then it's gonna return. So let's have a condition here. So you can't divide by 0. So we're going to say if A is not equal, so exclamation mark 0, 0 is not equal to 0, and the code that's going to be executed here is return A divided by B, right? So that is if A is not equal to 0. But if it is equal to 0, we're going to have an else block that will say return, let's say cannot divide by 0. All right, so here's our calculator application, like really short, really simple. Now let's call some of this function. So I can say, let's do first as a console log, and we do add, let's do 10 and 5 here. Okay, clear it out. So this will go and run this function. So this line 17 will go and run function on line 2, and then it will return, the function will return A plus B, and then console log will actually print that result. So A and B here is 10 and 5, so total will get it 15 out, right? And here we have it. Now next one, let's just store a result first. So let's do subs result. So we have a variable here. Now instead of doing console log immediately, we're just going to store the function run in the variable, and then we're going to print it out. So here we're going to have subtract, and let's provide 10 and 9 here. So this is getting executed. As an outcome, we'll have 1 as a result. It will get stored in subs result, and then we can say console log and do subs result. Okay, let's run it. And we have 1 coming back. Great. I'll move this a little bit down so we have more visibility. The next one, we have multiply. So let's console.log and do multiply. So let's do 2 multiplied by 2, right? And next one, we have console.log. Let's do divide, and let's divide, let's say 3 by 3. And let's also check our if condition. So we know that we can't divide by 0. So actually, there's a little mistake here. So because we can divide 0, but we can't divide by 0, right? So we need to update this if block, and we need to have B here. So because the next, you're dividing by B, so B cannot be 0, right? So we updated the code a little bit, and let's say console.log. Let's do again divide, and then provide here 3, and next will be a 0. So we're going to go into the else block here. All right, so we have all our calculator functions being executed here. Let's run the code. Okay, so the first one is 15, great. The second one we stored in the variable and then printed out, it's 1. Then multiply 2 by 2 is 4, got it. Divide 3 by 3 is 1, got it. And the last one, we're trying to divide 3 by 0. Cannot divide by 0. Okay, perfect. So this is all on functions. In the next video, we're going to start creating some tests around this calculator, and we're going to use one of the testing frameworks just to have some understanding how you can actually do some testing around the values that are being returned. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. This was alexusadays. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, this is alexusadays. So today we're doing JavaScript for testers. The last video, we're going to get introduction into a test framework, and we'll create some tests. Now, this is module 12, so we're all done. After this module, I'm probably going to go and work on a new course, something with automation, so either Playwright or Cypress, we'll see. But yeah, this is it for now. Going through this JavaScript course should prepare you to be able to write automation with me for the next course, or just in general, if you want to get into Playwright or Cypress or any JavaScript based automation, you should be able to do that. Okay, so let's talk about testing frameworks. Testing frameworks in JavaScript are essential for ensuring that code behaves as expected, automating the process of validating functionality and improving software quality through early detection of errors and bugs. Here's a list of popular JavaScript testing frameworks and libraries, each with its specific code focus ranging from unit testing to end-to-end testing. So one of the first is Jest. So Jest was developed by Facebook. Jest is widely used for its simplicity and speed, particularly in React and other modern web application projects. It comes with out-of-the-box support for JavaScript and TypeScript, mock-in and integrated test runner. Its snapshot testing feature is especially useful for catching changes in UI components. So I've seen Jest being used by developers while they're working on web applications. So it's kind of helping them to create the test for their app. Then there's Mocha. So Mocha is one of the most flexible testing frameworks. Mocha allows for detailed configuration, making it suitable for both unit and integration testing. It works well with assertion libraries like Chai, enabling developers to write tests in a style that best suits their needs. So we will be using Mocha with Chai today. So they come together. And actually, a lot of automation tools also use Mocha and Chai for the assertion library as part of their automation process. So Mocha, Chai are very popular in JavaScript. Even if you're going to go in Playwright, if you're going to go in Cypress, there's still going to be a lot of things that are very similar to Mocha Chai. So Chai is an assertion library rather than a testing framework. Chai is often mentioned alongside frameworks like Mocha for its powerful and expressive syntax that allows developers to write more readable and descriptive tests. Next one is Jasmine. It is known for its behavioral-driven development syntax. Jasmine is a self-contained framework that includes assertion functions, mocking, and splice without the need for additional plugins or libraries. It's favored for testing everything from JavaScript application to Node.js services. Next one is, I think, one of the most popular right now on automation market using JavaScript for the web, and that is Cypress. So Cypress is a really great tool to learn to get into automation. It's a modern end-to-end testing framework designed for the web. Cypress makes testing application easier by running tests in a real browser, providing developers with immediate visual feedback and powerful debugging tools. It's particularly useful for testing the full user experience of web applications. The next one is Puppeteer. Puppeteer is also very popular, but I don't see Puppeteer much in context of web automation for quality assurance, more for development. So Puppeteer, developed by Google. Puppeteer is a node library that provides a high-level API control, Chrome or Chromium, over the DevTools protocol. It's primarily used for end-to-end testing, automating browser tasks, and generating pre-rendered content for single-page applications. And the last one is Playwright. Now, in my opinion, Playwright right now is the most powerful tool for web automation. It's gaining popularity rapidly, and I think very soon it's going to overshadow other JavaScript frameworks in the domain of web automation and testing the web applications, and it's going to overshadow Selenium. So in my opinion, Playwright is the future for the next couple of years. It's going to be a very strong and very popular framework. So Playwright is similar to Puppeteer, Playwright is a node library for browser automation. It supports multiple browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and provides features for web application testing across browser contexts, making it a versatile choice for cross-browser testing. So again, I'm planning to create 2 more courses for automation, one with Cypress and one with Playwright. And this course was Introduction to JavaScript for Testers, a really good prerequisite for those 2. All right, so now let's get into the code. Okay, so here we are. Let's start our installation. So first thing, we need to install Mocha and Chai and add them into our package JSON and create a node folder, which will be automatically created for us once we install them with all the content for those libraries, right? So first thing we want to do, npm install --save -dev and provide name of the framework. So Mocha Chai. Let's run it. So it should install 2 of the frameworks here. You see the installation process started. They are added as dev dependencies because of the option that we provided here, save to dev. So here are both of them. And we can see that node modules folder was added, right? So we have all of the things that needed to run those libraries within the node module folder, right? This is essentially this is our package manager. npm is doing its thing to make our life easier. So it is added in the package JSON config, and the node module folder added was everything that is required to run Mocha, to do assertion with Chai, and you can see the folders here and all other packages that needed to do that. Okay, so what is next? So let's we had a calculator function in the previous video. Let's create a new calculator. We're going to use exactly the same functions, but it's going to be an object. And then we're going to export that object and then use that object for testing. So I'm going to create new file, and let's do 12.calc_object.js. Okay, so we have an object here. Let's do let calculator and equal, here open curly braces. So within this object, I need to put all of those functions, right? So I'm going to put them here. Now, the way how we're going to have it within the object, we have to update a couple things here. So first of all, we will have name of the function first. So add and then con. So here, let's remove the other name of the function. So it's return A and B, and then we're separating functions by a comma. So comma, same thing with the subtract. So some subtract colon, it's going to be a function, and it accepts A and B. We remove the arrow function here. So now it's a regular function, and then again, separate by a comma. Same thing with multiply. So a function name, it's going to be a function, delete our equals, delete our arrow function, and add curly braces. Within curly braces, we're return A multiplied by B, and the last one is divide. So we're going to update that one as well. So divide colon function accepts A and B. If B is equal to 0, return not equal to 0, return A divided by B, else return cannot divide by 0. Okay, perfect. So this is our object. Now we can't work with it until we export it. So it becomes available. We can use it in other places. So I can say, in order to export this, I need to do module module.export exports, and then let's do equal calculator. So this object right here, this calculator object, is now being exported. Now I can import it in other places, other files, other folders. So I'm going to create new folder called test, and then within the test folder, we're going to have our tests that will be running against this. And now in our test folder, we're going to have a test file that will be importing the calculator, and we will be doing tests around the calculator functionality in that folder. in a file. So let's create a file in test folder, call it calculator test.js. Okay, and what are we doing first? So first we need to import a couple things here. We need to import expect from chai. So again, this is our assertion library. This is the function that we will be asserting with. So kind of like our verification method, expect. So we're importing that, and we also need to import calculator, right? Calculator, and well, JavaScript is really smart here, and it found the exported object in the higher directory. So 2 dots, it went up from the test into the root folder and then grabbed this file with an object. So this file that we just created. Okay, so I imported both things that I needed. That's great. So let's start working in our tests here. The tests are going to be into 2 blocks. There's a higher level block, which is a describe block. It will have the name of all of your all of your tests combined together. Like, what are we doing here? So describe block is like a kind of a test plan name, and then within the describe block you'll have smaller test blocks that are called it, and then you provide a test name for a specific test within that it block. So let me show you how it looks. Let's start with the describe block. So describe, and you want to open parentheses. Within the parentheses, everything else is going to happen, right? So first, we need to provide the name for the describe block, what this describe block is doing, and we will say verification of calculator functionality. Okay, so this is the name of the whole thing, of the describe block, and the test within it will be under that describe block, right? Then we do comma, and then we need to write function. This function does not accept anything. We just have it as is. So parentheses are empty, and then another curly braces, where we'll have the whole code running. All other tests will be within those curly braces, right? So then we will start with actual tests one by one. So we start with it, and very similar. So we have a parentheses open. Within the parentheses here, we provide the name for the test that will be running. So let's so verify add 2 numbers, right? Functionality. So that's going to be our first verification. That's the name of it, and then we say function, empty parentheses, and then curly braces. And within this curly braces that belong to this 8th block, we actually have our test. So I'm going to say expect, and what are we expecting? So let's call our calculator dot add, and let's provide 2 numbers here. So let's provide 5 and 2, right? So remember how we were doing in this lesson addition. So add 10 plus 5. So we're actually doing the same thing, but we're also going to be doing assertion on top of it. So let's get back to our test. Let's say also 10 and 5 here. So we're going to do add 10 plus 5, but now we're not printing it to the console. We're running a test around it. So here is the calculator add being executed, and we also need to say what are we expecting. We can say 2 and then equal to equal 15. So this calculator function from the calculator object gonna run. It's gonna add 10 plus 5 together. We're gonna expect 15 as a result of it. So this is first it block, first test within this describe block. Now we can add one more. So I can just copy and paste this, right? I'm gonna grab the it, copy paste it, and now let's say verify subtract, right? I can just rename it verify subtract 2 numbers for, so let's just say verify subtract functionality. Now instead of add, we do in subtract, right? And let's do 7 and 5. So 7 minus 5 is 2, so we verifying that result of this calculation will be equal to 2. All right, so and then when continuing, so again, next one is multiplication. So verify multiply functionality. We expect calculator multiply, and let's do 2 multiplied by 2 should be equal by 4. That's the next test, and then the last test is divide. So verify divide functionality, and then calculator divide. 3 divided by 3 should be equal to 1. We can also verify dividing by null. So remember, we have this little else that if we provide a 0 instead of the b, if b is equal to 0, we're going to error out. Show this message. So let's verify that as well. So verify divide by 0 functionality. So function divide 3 by 0, and then as an outcome we should expect a message, right? And the message is that we're expecting cannot divide by 0 equal to cannot divide by 0. That will be expected to be returned. We're done with the calculator. What we need to do, we need to go to our package JSON, and let's add a script here. So we have a script test that is not configured. So if I'll do right now npm test, it's gonna get us this message, error no test specified. So it's coming from here. So we need to specify a framework for the test script. We're gonna say Mocha. It knows where Mocha is. Mocha knows that there is expected test folder, and then calculator.test.js, it will be able to grab this file. So Mocha is smart enough to find a test folder and find the file with .test.js extension. So let me clear out the console. Let's go to the package JSON, and here we're gonna just say npm test. So now instead of the error, we're gonna actually do the Mocha framework. So let's run it. All right, so we got a couple errors here. So there's an error saying that it can't find the module 12.call_object.js. I think even though it was smart enough to import it, maybe I think it needs .js extension still. So it found it, it imported the path, but it didn't add the extension. So let's see if adding the extension fixes it. pm test. We're still erroring out. So it says that calculator object.js does not provide an export name default. So I think we need to update how we export the module here. So not module exports equal to calculator. The correct way to export this would be export default calculator. So now that should work. Let's go back to our calculator. So by default we're exporting everything in that object and the object calculator as a whole thing. Let's run it now. And here we are. So all our tests passed. We executed verify that add number to functionality, verify subtract functionality. So all of the testing passing, but let's say I want to update an expected outcome. So 10 plus 5, and I'm going to say it should be equal to 10, not 15, right? And let's rerun it. And it gives me an error. So assertion expected 15 to equal to 10. So it got the actual value coming back, but it expected 10, so 10 is not equal to 15, and the test failed. So now we see 4 passing and 1 failing. Okay. All right, let's clear out the console. So run one more time all of the tests passing, and here we go. So this is it. This is end of our journey, introduction to JavaScript with some exposure to the testing. Now, what we did right now with Mocha Chai is very similar to what you will be doing with Playwright and Cypress in terms of verification. So you'll be just getting some values back, some functionality that expects to provide certain values, and you will be verifying them. That will be in API or in the web, so we're going to cover both. But this is it for this module. Hopefully you liked it. Thank you very much for watching. This was Alex USA Days, and bye-bye. This is Alex USA Days, and this is the last video for JavaScript for testers, and this is just a bonus video about Playwright. So the whole idea of us going through the JavaScript in this course and even getting our hands on with JSON and Mocha Chai is to prepare ourselves for automation. And both for Cypress and Playwright, they're both modern automation tools. Now we're going to get into the Playwright here a little bit, and I'll just show you how fast and easy it is to start working with Playwright. Why Playwright, right? So Playwright provides key advantages for web automation, including support for complex test scenarios and iframe management. It allows both visible and headless browser testing for flexibility. The auto wait feature eliminates the need for manual wait commands, ensuring stability and reliability. Additionally, Playwright's speed outperforms similar tools, which is crucial for efficient development workflows. So if you want to get into QA web automation, Playwright is one of the fastest growing tools. Completing this JavaScript course equips you with the necessary skills to dive in. Let me show you how easy it is to start using Playwright. Okay, so I am in my folder, and we were doing all of our files here in Learn.js for testers. So I'm going to create new folder, and I'm just going to call it try_playwright. The folder is created. Now in Visual Studio Code, I'm going to go File, Open Folder, and go to Try Playwright. Let's open it up. Okay, and now we have an empty folder. Nothing's here. There's a welcome page. Let's go ahead and open our console. So click on this exclamation mark. And we are in console. Let's go to the terminal. All right, and all you really need to do to get started with the Playwright is just to type npm init playwright at latest. Run it. It's asking, are we going to use TypeScript or JavaScript? Let's select JavaScript. It asks where we're going to have our end-to-end tests in the tests folder. That is okay. Is there any GitHub action workflow? No. And it also asks, do we want to install browsers that we will be running? Sure. And that's it. The project has started. Look at that. It has package JSON. It installs all the modules. It also created a Playwright config where you can set your testing directory. It asks if we're running parallel testing. It has a reporter by default. And it actually has 3 browsers that it will run tests in: Chromium, which is like Chrome, essentially, Firefox, and WebKit, which is Safari desktop. Okay, that's it. Everything's installed, and in the test we have an example test over here, and also some demo test examples. All right, let's run it. How to run Playwright after installation? All you have to do is say npx playwright test, and it's gonna run 6 tests using 6 workers, and it passed. Let's see our HTML report. So to show HTML report, just do npx playwright show report. So I'm gonna copy paste this command, and it's gonna open our reporter. Here we have it. So it verified that there is title in Chromium, verified there's get started link in Chromium, verified it has title in Firefox, verified it has title in Safari. So it reports everything it ran. So 6 tests, 2 tests. There are 2 tests, but it run in each browser. So 3 browsers, 2 tests, so 6 total. So all of those tests, 2 tests are running in 3 different browsers, giving us 6 tests as a result. with a nice report to show for it. And everything is kind of out of the box. You just write one line to install everything, and then you start writing your code, and you're all set. You're good to go. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. This was alexusadays, and thank you so much for being with me. I hope you enjoyed the course, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.